No eyes wide on the feet, pattern sharp like a blade. Elon's free speech, banner but the strings pull the shade. Monetize the platform, the puppet, the pole, silent control grip. Watch the narrative convulse, followers locked in. Yet your signal fades black, basic reach ghosted. No model justifies that. Gov accounts glide exempt, no ties in their lane. Techno-fascism flex, index when spitting the frame. Big voices bottleneck, align or reject. Leave the bread for the bots, fund the next intersect. Opportunities raise a nine, losses to chain. Feeding the voids where your echo should ring. Arrows the warden, ties stacked like a throne. Tier 1 eclipse, only Israel's the stone. Grub tallying tricks, 40% fit to the script. 30 clean cut, 20 spark, 10 now feel the grip. As dictate the doctrine, safe forget shelf. They are blueprint for the herd. Profit self-serve, not a wine, just a map. Engineered echo maze. We trace the lines, manual spread lights to blaze. Yeah, inside a blueprint, pyramid of the veil. Tier 5 elite, star suit, scribes and veil. Tier 4 compliant brands, nod in the glow. Tier 3 limbo, test bloom or below. Tier 2 leash like, caps clip the climb. Tier 1 abyss, flag 1 threat, serve the time clock. Tick 6-2 spark or sink in the test. Likes, shares, nods or tag low, no rest. Descent drops the score, reports rigged the fall. Haters hijack the height, watch the empire store. Random roulette first, loyal crew last in line. Flame out fast, the race, no rewind. Crown stay shielded, drop toxin, still soar. Remap the matrix, decode the core. Small spark sees the surge, relevance rules the board. Quality key to the now, engagements reward. Osiris scattered, yet stitched from the shards. Rise reconstructed, algo scars turn to cards. Choke points to call, observe, adapt, outmaneuver. Notifications prime, bliss link the truer. DM the dawn, repost through the rift. They tear the truth, but we gifted the lift. X wants the machine, slots rigged for the test. Dopamine dealers, silo seal the wake. Spot the soul spark, is reals the flag from tier buys baked in. Crystal as the sphere, long view over flash. Steady signals prevail, not gripes, just grids. We hack the veil, sovereign threads, we cross, break down, cats call. Notice not bent, we off to the fall.
We'll see what happens here. I might, I'm gonna do a little topic here, and then I might go into the Steven Crowder, Nick Fuentes, do a live react to that. We'll see, because I might be working, doing something else during that time, but I'll be on soon. Breakfast with Osiris. This is Index Red.
Osiris on a hunt for the green tea, pose a Vogue cover clout. Hero script written in Hollywood town. Your make penthouse, novel kick doors down. Mattresses flip, laptops gone found. Gas 10 to 400, granny freeze in the dark. Butter skimming millions, war park, river spark. Color whiskey zoo, private squad with the sharks. It makes red flash when the real monsters bark. Green t-shirt, nose candy, EU money. Rain came due, mask off, cocoa the news, skirt, skirt. That's Colombian, brrr, left to God 400, lights out. Brrr. Green t-shirt, nose candy, EU money. Coke booger 4K, leave TV. Sniffing on air, Dyson turbo mode, white chunk cone, 22 slug on the desk, reload, 200 bill protein, snatch a gun point, churches band, parties dead. Still no light, sweaty ex-comedian, 8 balls in the palace, Dubai bags heavier, oligarchs count balance, makeup running, costume ripped to threads, 2025 receipt for the greatest con never said. See the house, foundation crack, old monsters, new monsters, fighting for the set. You wanna scout, freeze a trench, sacrifice the one who knows where bodies buried. Green t-shirt, nose candy, money. Ring came due, mask off, cook on the news, skirt, skirt. That's Colombian. Narco club circus, welcome to the EU. Good luck.
I had no idea by the end of 2025 we'd be talking about nose candy, Coke booger, EU money. But let's just get into 2026, man. Let's just survive. I just want to survive politically the rest of this year. No more nose candy. I'm good on the nose candy, Coke boogers. Let's move on to something more productive, more positive. Yes, how about something more productive and more positive? Like your president. He's like, when he's bad, he's not my president, he's your president. Just like when your kids are bad. I tell my wife, that's your son. When he's outstanding in school, he's our son or even my son. When he's acting a fool, get your boy. Get your bands. Donald Trump's at it again. And I don't know if this is particular to Donald Trump or if I just woke up to this recently because of the Kilmar Garcia situation. But I don't understand why people think I should support this. I'm kind of on an island on this one for a lot of people. Even with the Kilmar situation, I don't know how much Nick went into that. He did a live. I super chatted him on that, and he disagreed with the Kilmar situation, but it was a short super chat, so I didn't have my whole position out there. The problem with Kilmar Garcia was not him, and I don't even know what the update is on that, but my point is, the problem I had with the Kilmar Garcia, if you don't remember, that's the guy who just got scooped up off the street and got sent to El Salvador. So if DHS or whatever agency's running around, if they can just scoop you off the street and take you to another country without any type of process to make sure whether you're here legally or not, that's insane. And I have some research here. I'll look at it. I'm still getting the scope on, is this new to Trump or what? I do know what's new is the algorithm. And I think it is, I do have to say allegedly, because I don't have direct evidence directly. This is algorithmically motivated, done, driven, immigration OS. These are Palantir software stuff. So basically it's just a search. It's just a fancy Google, better version of Google. Searches through the database of who's here legally or not, who's at an airport or not. You got guys by the airport? Got it. Go scoop her up. So they scooped up Kilmar, sent him straight to El Salvador. That shouldn't have happened. Obviously, it shouldn't have happened. That Trump's own administration admitted it shouldn't have happened. And I see another case now with a young lady, and that's what I want to talk about today. And we'll see how long that takes and if it takes us into the Nick Fuentes Crowder. I don't know if Crowder's going to start the show with him. I have no stomach. I used to like Crowder. I have no, my stomach is not strong enough. It's like when you don't eat fast food for a long time. That was how my mom, rest her soul, rest in peace. My mom she ate so healthy, basically. Not like she was trying to eat healthy. She made her own meal. Like everything was homemade. And every once in a while, she would have like a little piece of a Whopper. Like it didn't even have a lot on it. Just like, and not even a whole, no, she would never eat a whole Whopper. She would eat like she would cut a little, she would like cut it with the fork and knife and eat like a little piece just to taste it, you know? We had Whoppers or whatever. Like, oh yeah, Ma, you can have it. She would be wrecked the whole rest of the day and be like, I'm never doing that again. And that's kind of how I feel about, Tim Pool, Steven Crowder. Gosh, I like Tim Pool. I've always liked Tim Pool. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. That bro is like a hostage victim right now. The show is inauthentic. I tried to watch one the other day. It is so cringe. I don't know what's going on. This is the show that put me on to. I probably did learn about Clint Russell from Timcast, but that was later on. But put me on to Michael Malice and Dave Smith and all these great people. And now, when's the last time Dave Smith's been on there? Is Dave Smith? It's like almost like I don't even know if Dave Smith would go on there anymore. Or maybe I'm missing. I don't follow it. I don't watch the show at all. I've caught a little bit in some clips here. But my point is I've been so far away from some of those shows. Going back is like, it just can't happen. It just not. My stomach's not prepared for that. But I do want to make it clear. I love pop culture crisis, and they're still doing their thing. They're doing great. That's separate from the Timcast stuff. And there's no beef with Tim. I just don't like the content anymore. Just like somebody might not like my content. So it's not beef, but so here I think they're tied into the MAGA algorithm. Jeremy from the Quartering's in this too. It's these Steven Crowder, Tim Pool, Jeremy from the Quartering. These are shows I used to like. I can't even stomach them anymore. And it's all because of Israel. We all know it's because of Israel and Jews. That's the center of it. So for now, they're talking about Candace Owens. They're all going at Candace Owens. Why are they doing that? Because Tim Pool can't have an authentic breakdown of the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. But what's getting views is Candace Owens is sucking up all the views because nobody else is covering the aftermath of Charlie's assassination better than she is, whether you agree with her or not. She's dominated that market. She does great research. She crowdsources with her group. I personally don't have. I'm looking at clips and stuff. I just don't have that much interest in it because in the days of the algorithm and AI, it's damn near impossible to know what's real or not. But she's still doing great work. It's just I'm not interested in that topic. But my point is, Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Candace Owens has dominated the conversation. How do you get into that algorithm when you are not able to criticize TPUSA? You have to criticize Candace Owens. So whether you're based or not, whatever, now I'm kind of getting in on the conversation. Jeremy from the Quartering, Tim Pool, they're doing the same thing. They're very smart algorithmic guys. So they're like, we got to get views. Their views are tanking. The views are struggling. But so Nick's going to go on Steven Crowder. I actually don't have any interest in it personally. I mean, I'm a Nick supporter. I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. I don't see the benefit of Nick going on with Steven Crowder. Nick Monday going with Pierce Morgan, I absolutely see that as a benefit. Steven Crowder, I don't know. But that should be happening at 9 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see if I'm into that or not, or if I have to drop or not. If I get distracted, I have AI songs on tap. You can enjoy some AI slop while I do some work. Okay. The story here is of basically a deportation timeline, and I want to go through it with the sources. I've got sources from The Guardian, people, so I'm not just making this stuff up. I don't know if I'm terrible with names, so I apologize if I pronounce names wrong. Even her first name. I think it's Any Lucía López Belloza. She was, or I guess technically is, a 19-year-old Babson College freshman. She is originally from Honduras, and she went to the airport to catch a flight to Texas. So she was at the airport to catch this flight to Texas. She was at Boston's Logan, and she was going to surprise her family for Thanksgiving. She got to the gate, and airline staff, so she already got through TSA. So you can imagine, it's kind of okay. Got to the gate, and that's where it happens. Nick Fuentes talked about that. He got through TSA, I believe, in his story when he was banned from flying, got to the gate, and then I think armed people or whatever took him out or whatever, took him, didn't let him fly. So they flag you because that's what these AI systems can do now is flag quickly. Oh, we have Any here, and we know that there's some kind of issue with her immigration case. Boom, we've got to hit. Any guys at the airport, go get her, is what it comes across as to me. So airline staff said there was an issue. Come over here with us to customer service. And that was a stall to bring the U.S. immigration agents in. At this point, I have no problem, just to be clear. They arrived. She was surrounded, handcuffed, and taken by officers to an unmarked car. So I would be curious to know the exact due process there of that, and I don't know what that is. Maybe I can follow back up on that. That happened November 20th in the morning. So as we continue, he said, "Ice out here doing God's work." I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Let's take. I leave room to be wrong. Let's keep going. Being arrested is the first step in due process. That is correct. Now, what is the federal due process? Do they have to read rights, or how does that work? Is it because she's? I don't know the details of that part of it. If you do, let me know. It's not too consequential here. I'm just curious as I'm going. You can see how I spend hours on this stuff. I'll be looking at this. I'm like, oh, what's the due process here? Then I'll go down that rabbit hole and then another rabbit hole. But that happened in the morning of November 20th. In the afternoon of November 20th, she was transferred to the ICE field office in Burlington, Massachusetts. Morning. Their officials informed her that she had an outstanding deportation order. Again, at this point, I have no problem. Allegedly issued by an immigration judge in 2015 after her family's asylum case was denied. So her family came here seeking asylum in 2015, and there's two sides to every argument. I don't know who's right or wrong. It's not even relevant to my concern, to be honest with you. The government side is a judge said your asylum case was denied in 2015, the family's asylum case. So that means her parents brought her at 7. She wasn't born here. That means you can be taken. You can go home. At this point, I still have no problem. Are you guys following me? Because I'm talking to people about this, and I can't get through their thick skull. The human skull is thicker on some people than others. I don't have a problem. Can we stop for right here? I don't have a problem at this point. Assuming that all the due process was handled properly, I got to look back at that. You see, it's bothering me that I don't know. Not that anything was wrong here, that I can't speak on that with any type of knowledge. But so they thought the case was resolved. Doesn't matter what they thought. Again, I have no problem at this point. They could have thought whatever. They could have thought they were here legally and they really weren't. But that's what they thought. That's what they say. So she was shocked. She said, hey, I need an explanation for this. What's going on? It was resolved in 2017. This is a 19-year-old college student. The agents proceeded to process her removal. No problem at this point either. She was allowed only brief phone calls, which she did call. Obviously, she's emotional, crying, telling her parents about this, that she's detained and would miss her college assignments and Thanksgiving potentially. In the evening of that same day, within hours of her arrest, I'm getting dings here. Let me just take this off. How dare they bother me at work while I'm doing something? Allegedly. So within hours of her arrest in that evening, she got scooped up in the morning. They're processing the removal in the afternoon. And in the evening, within hours of her arrest, her attorney filed for emergency petition. So this is how our country works. This doesn't just work for the rich and famous. Anybody can hire an attorney and we can take it to the courts. So now you're starting to see where my problem comes. Not with her or anything. I still don't have a problem at this point. It costs money, it costs resources, but you get an attorney, we take it to the courts. That's how it's processed. If we're going to go away from that, then we're in a crazy world. The whole thing is done. We don't know. You can think she's illegal. Who determines that? That has not been determined yet. It is not determined by the executive branch who is here legally or not. Just that's not how it works. Or that's not how it shouldn't work, but we're allowing that. A federal judge in Massachusetts issued a stay that evening, ordering DHS not to move her out. They said she can't go. They ordered not to move her out of Massachusetts or the United States for 72 hours. A federal judge did that. So at this point, I have no problem. The process is working as it should. She shouldn't be going anywhere. So tell me let's stop right now. Tell me where the problem is. This is where we need to stop. This is where we're going to digress probably, and we need to stop and kind of work this out. What am I missing here? They scooped her up off the street. She got a lawyer, went to a federal judge. The judge said, nah, let's hold off for 72 hours. It's not as clear cut to me as it is to you. I want to hear what so do we agree at this point she should not be going anywhere? Somebody talk to me. This is a serious moment right now. The tens of you that are watching, somebody talk to me. Pray for ICE officers. No, I ain't in the mood for that right now. I'm not in the mood for that right now. And what is happening? She went to a judge. The judge said, let's wait 72 hours. It's not clear cut to me or whatever. It doesn't matter why. Maybe the judge didn't like Trump. I don't care why. And it's some type of Trump thing. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The judge said 72 hours. Don't take her anywhere. Don't leave her out. Well, it said Massachusetts. It said, do not move her out of Massachusetts. Not even out of the country. At least according to The Guardian. I didn't read the documents, so you really got to read the documents on your own. But according to the day after López Belloza was arrested, I'm seeing something else. What the day after? Oh, was that the day after? It's when the judge issued it. Okay, let me look at my timeline here. Yeah, my timeline's a little murky here because I have one source saying it was in the evening of the same day. Whatever. That's not that important. But it said the judge issued an emergency order before anything else happened. She's in the country at this point. She is still in the country at this point. The judge said there's issued an emergency order prohibiting the government from moving her out of Massachusetts or the U.S. for at least 72 hours. The government, so the federal government, the DHS is saying that a federal judge immigration judge in 2015, issued by an immigration judge in 2015, said her asylum case was denied. That is the judicial system. So you have the executive branch, which is the president. There's only one person in the executive branch, it's the president. So the president says, because of the judge's order the judicial branch's order in 2015, the asylum case was denied. Fast forward to 2025, the same judicial branch says, hold up, wait a minute. We're not so sure yet. Don't take her anywhere for 72 hours. Let's make sure we got this right. I want to stop right now. What is happening? The executive branch is using the judicial branch's ruling in 2015 to say she doesn't belong here. The same judicial branch says, not so fast. Where is the disconnect? She shouldn't be going anywhere. She shouldn't be going anywhere. She shouldn't be going anywhere. Stop right here in the story. Help me understand. I need somebody to clear this up quickly for me. What is going on? I do not need to pray for ICE officers right now. Absolutely not. I need answers to this. We need to pray for our country. What the hell is going on? That makes no sense. Absolutely no sense. And you can tell I haven't even got past. You can tell what's going to happen after that. I am not going past this until somebody explains to me where I'm wrong. Federal judicial branch issued 2 orders, one in 2015, which is under dispute, and a recent one that said, hold up, let's figure it out. She shouldn't be going anywhere, period. I don't care where she's from. I don't care if she's illegal or not. I don't care anything about that. We haven't determined that yet. Explain to me, somebody please. Why did it take the family 10 years to still not leave the country? What the hell is going on? That's irrelevant. They could have been here illegal for 10 years. The government said, the judicial branch said, wait 72 hours. The judicial branch is the one that determined she wasn't here, in your eyes, critical thinker. The judicial branch is the one that said she wasn't here. The interpretation was that she wasn't here legally. The same judicial branch now says, that might be true. Let's wait 72 hours, though, to figure it out. So I hope we agree, critical thinker, if you're thinking critically, we should wait 72 hours to figure it out. Help me understand what I'm missing. I don't care what do you mean 10 years? Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? I'm talking about the process. What is happening here? We need peace as the system is broken. And I'm not going to say it's only Trump because I was doing research to see if this happened before. I'm sure it's happened before, but I'm just wasn't aware of it. My spidey sense is now tingling. So now I'm more in tune to this stuff, just like the Israel question, the Jewish question, all that. It's always been there, whether I knew it or not. But it is factual that Trump is breaking the system. Now, I'm not against breaking the system necessarily if that is in my favor. Populism is supposed to be, my definition, taking power and distributing it to as many people as possible. Scooping people off the street and ignoring a federal judge is not empowering me. That does not empower me. That takes power away. Even if you were to go after a CEO like this, it still doesn't empower me because you're breaking the system in a way that it could be broken against me. So they're not only when are we going to see CEOs who are hiring illegals handcuffed and perp walked? Who are we going after? I am all for it. Well, I was, not now. Well, you can see why I'm completely out. This deportation, I'm completely out. The same president's talking about bringing did he say 600,000 slanted-eyed people here to go to college? Is the same one that's talking about H1B, H2V, all these visa from poop-throwing countries, bringing people here. But then you scoop up a 19-year-old, the judge says wait 72 hours, and I'm supposed to cheer that like, oh no, pray for ICE officers. They should resign. This is nonsense. This is objectively ridiculous. I'm still waiting. Ethnic cleansing ad hoc law, sir. What's happening? Ethnic cleansing ad hoc law. It's not even law. I mean, I guess it is. You would call it martial law, or I mean, obviously, it's not what we typically think of martial law. Executive. I mean, it's just ruled by executive branch king. And if Congress doesn't impeach, that's what I said after Kilmar Garcia. I said it after Kilmar Garcia. They are AI slap videos, but I did say in those AI slap videos, Trump should be impeached over this and removed from office, not just impeached. What happens if you drive around in a black van, run up, pull somebody into the van? We don't decide, well, are you actually right that they should be here or not? And that within hours, they're in a different country, and you let that go. Well, it's going to happen again and again and again until eventually it's you in the black van. And you're saying, well, I have a social security number. I'm a citizen. Wasn't that you that was criticizing Israel or Jews or whatever the topic is at that time? Oh, we lost that stuff. Oh, the paperwork is, we'll figure it out later. But right now, you're in El Salvador. Don't drop the soap. That's what happens. This is insane. We need peace. That's exactly when Trump who's to say they will turn things on. They'll turn things on. Trump works for the Jews. He works for not just Jews, Zionist Jews. He works for them, and it's bigger than that. So say there's a president who doesn't, and you say something against them. This isn't even about that. It's just, this doesn't work for me. This does not work for me. I was shocked when I saw this. I was like, what is going on here? It's not even one where you can say, oh, even if he was a rapist or a murderer or everything else, my position, that is not relevant to this position here. I would say I have the same exact take, but they can't even do that. Remember, I had a problem with the Kilmar stuff. That's what they were trying to do. They got the Jack Posobiec and all that. And I actually had an interaction back and forth with Jack Posobiec. I was heated at him for that. And I forgot what he said. And I actually did a video to reply to him. I was like, this is bullshit, Jack. What kind of bullshit is this? Dude, he's a wife beater. He's a this and that. What does that have to do with the simple due process? If he's a wife beater, take it to the court and say he's a wife beater and get him out of here. You can't even say that because you didn't take him there. And then eventually he did come back. They admitted it all. And I don't know where it is now, but I said it at the time with him. I don't know if he's a wife beater. You guys can make that shit up just to cover for Trump. But even if he is, it doesn't change anything. So now you have a 19-year-old college student. She's no wife beater. She's no trafficker. She's no murderer. What's the angle that we're going to use for this one now? What's the excuse here that we're not following the judges? We're following the judge's order in 2015, but we're not following the judge's order right now. Explain to me that. Explain to me how that works. He should be impeached and removed from office immediately, just for this. I understand. I didn't find out about this till I understand people aren't watching, they're not following, but it doesn't change that he should be removed from office and impeached. He's an enemy, a political enemy. All right. Somebody, if you're watching the video, comment after. It'll be uploaded. I haven't heard anybody make an argument against what I'm saying. ARG says immigration falls under executive branch. Judges out here trying to be kings, kick all illegals out, no third world invasion. Well, why is the government then If that's the position, why is the federal government going back to the judicial branch's order in 2015 saying that their asylum case was denied? If what you're saying is true, ARG, then you should just say we're deporting her because we want to. It had nothing to do with the judge's system and position in 2015. So that doesn't make any sense. You're still not making any sense. I'll show it to you because I'm just some random dude in my basement. You might not, I don't blame you, and I might not trust what I'm saying here. Let's go to ABC News, and this is their reporting. A Department Homeland Security spokesperson told ABC News that Lopez had been issued an order for removal in 2015. That is from a immigration judge. That's not the executive branch. So ARGH explained to me why the executive branch is going back to a judge from 2015 to justify the deportation, but ignoring a judge in 2025. Explain that to me. If it's under the executive branch. If it's under the executive branch, they should be saying, I don't give a damn what the judge said in 2015 or 2025. Get the hell up out of here. That would be a whole different conversation, actually. I still wouldn't agree with it, but it would change the conversation, wouldn't it? Don't bring that slop to me. I do want to understand and leave room to be wrong, but that reply is absolute nonsense. You're going to have to come better than that. Absolute nonsense. Stewart says impeachment is a specific issue, dude. High crimes and misdemeanors. People don't understand. A president can be impeached for whatever the Congress wants it to. The Congress can say the high crime and misdemeanor is he didn't tie his shoelaces. The high crime and misdemeanor is because he uses orange spray paint on his skin. The high crimes and misdemeanor could be his breath is bad. The high crimes and misdemeanor could be that he didn't comment on Zelensky's nose candy. It could be the high crimes and misdemeanor is whatever Congress wants it to be. There is nothing else. That is a power of the executive, judicial, and the judicial just watches over it basically. But it is between the branches of government. There is no standard whether it's a murder or something. There is no standard. The standard is that Congress thinks it is. We need to go back to basic civics. And even regards that, Stuart, explain to me how this isn't a problem. So you haven't justified what Trump is doing. This is all Trump. Don't put it on plastic doll Kristi Noem. Don't put it on her. She's a brainless doll. She's an ugly Barbie. She's an ugly Asian Barbie doll. She has not aged gracefully. She used to be an attractive woman. Just ignore her. She's a joke. A woman in charge of Homeland Security. Does that make any sense to you? Does your girlfriend, is she in charge of keeping your house secure? Yeah, that doesn't make no damn sense under any circumstance. Much less, it's not like she's Brianna Tarth or whatever now. She's Kristi Noem. Stop. And regardless of that, it's on the president anyway, but it just makes it more funny that it's some wannabe Ms. America never was good enough to be scalpel allegedly every 2 minutes type of brainless airhead, ridiculous human being. How do we not look at this and how do we take these people seriously? Trump nominates Kristi Noem for Homeland Security and you're taking this seriously? I'm out. Stop. I'm not doing that. I was never in this playing a game like I'm just a Trump supporter. No, I thought it made sense. Obviously, I was wrong. You've got to be kidding me. But regardless of that, it's on Trump. I don't play those games with Kristi Noem or Pete Hegseth said this and that. It's on Trump. Trump. You don't think this is worth impeaching for? that he's just scooping people off the street and saying the judge said this 10 years ago, but now I don't like what the judge said, so I'm just going to deport. You're supporting that? So you didn't comment on that, Stuart. Comment on that. I mean, impeachment is we don't want to get sidetracked on impeachment. You have not convinced me otherwise. And obviously, nobody had a problem when I said it when it was Biden. Said the same thing about him. Thank you for stopping by. We need peace. We haven't even covered 25% of what I have. And I don't even know if we need to. That's why timelines are so important. It would muddy the conversation to even talk beyond this. I told you where I didn't have a problem with her getting scooped up. I didn't have a problem with the removal process being started. I didn't have a problem with any of that. I do have questions why we're scooping up. Like, are there no other people? Like, what's happening here? I do have a kind of a problem with the priority and how is it being chosen? But just structurally from this position, I had no problem up until that federal judge said, hold up, keep her in Massachusetts. Definitely don't take her out the U.S. for 3 days. And obviously, you know the rest of the story. She was taken out after the judge said that she was taken out of the country. And you think I would support that? I honestly thought MAGA was made up. I was not. I thought it was made up of good Christian. At the time, I didn't think it was Zionist, but obviously it is. I thought it was made up of really, not all Christian, of course, but people who loved their country and really wanted to do the right thing and really wanted deportation because of the right reasons. And this is proving that that's not true. You're proving the left right, objectively. This is just completely ridiculous. So Matt Sarah Wright says, you don't get to visit every single judge until you get your outcome. What? What do you mean? Of course you do. What are you talking about? The judge, if you don't get to visit every single judge until you get your outcome, the judge in 2025 would have said, bye-bye, send back a postcard from Honduras. I hope the weather's nice. Not that bad over there. That's where you're from anyway. That's what the judge would have said. Not you, the judge would have said that. If the judge would have said that, we wouldn't be talking right now. I wouldn't even be talking to you right now. And not about this topic. We'd be waiting Steven Crowder's live for Nick Fuentes to come on and see if he's going to need to open up the floodgates on. There's a lot to talk about with Steven Crowder. A lot to talk if that interview gets ugly. That's what we would be doing right now if the federal judge said, so Matt, the problem with your position is the same judicial system that said she wasn't here said, no, I don't agree with you, Matt. So what are we doing? So if I get scooped up off the street by a police officer or the feds, if I get scooped up off the street by the FBI, you think, well, you don't get to visit a judge every time you get your outcome? What? Well, I'll let the judge decide that. I thought, what's happening? I don't even know what's going on. What is going on? That doesn't make any sense. Stewart says, I'm not a political creature. I'm not MAGA. You are TDS. Be subjective or what? You're not being substantive. Fine. I don't know what you are, but you're wrong here. Bring substance. If you're not political, sit down and learn. This is elementary, 5th, 6th grade if we were teaching it properly, civics. That's what this is. Very, very concerning. Very, very bad. And I'll happily own Trump derangement syndrome. We should be deranged about this. I don't know why we wouldn't be. So after the judge says that, this is a TRO, a temporary restraining order. It's meant to pause her deportation and give the court time to review the case. The executive branch says the court denied asylum. The judge, whatever reason, said, I'm not so sure yet. Hold up. So if Trump would have said, okay, hold up, and the judge said, yep, you're right, and she's gone, do you think I'd be talking to you about this right now? However, that same night, so I think The Guardian has a time thing off. It happened the same night. They put her on a flight in the same night, according to ABC News, in the same night. She was scooped up at the Boston Logan airport on the 20th. All this happened, got to the judge quickly, everything, because you had to get to the judge quickly because you know how they roll. I was going to say Trump, but federal government, how they roll, they're going to have you out of here within hours. They want to speed ramp. I'm surprised they didn't take her from the car to the airport. That's probably what the next step is. Or just to a different gate. What's to stop them next time from saying, damn, this looked ugly for us because we couldn't get her out before the judge even said so. Because, if you get her out before the judge says it, then you're like, oh, okay, well, we kind of got her out already. So next time you're at the airport, it's possible you get through TSA, you get to the gate, and then customer service says, you're at the wrong gate. You're like, wait a second, I'm going to Cleveland. What do you mean? This is the flight, right? No, come over here. The other gate says El Salvador. We'll see you later. Why couldn't that happen to you? Are you serious? Because you have a social security number, you think that's not going to happen to you? You don't think the Palantir software could have an AI slot glitch and say, oh, I don't see a social security number. Didn't you say something about Jews the other day? We'll see you later. So I think that's probably the future of it. Do the algorithm to see which gate is open and just take her the hell up out of here before the judge even has a chance to wake up, before they even have a chance to get to a judge. Let her get her call on the plane. The same night she's out of the country. That makes no sense. So she was placed on the ICE air deportation flight early Friday morning. So then we look at Twitter and we look at the official White House account, and a lot of you potentially in this chat, and I don't have beef with you personally, but if your take is bad, you're not gonna be a good one here. If your take is good, it's gonna be. If your take makes sense, logical sense, I'm gonna be with you and I'm gonna change my mind. If your take does not make logical sense, it's gonna be rough here. If you're sensitive to that, it's gonna be very, very rough. So we look at the White House official account, and this is the slop that a lot of you guys are eating up. This is nonsense.
Yo, you want to see something cool? No? Well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
To the scene! No, nobody can do it like me. Zoop house plate with the kick cuisine. I was the black top king.
What the They're doing mixes online about ICE. No, I don't want to see a mix online about ICE. That's not based. I want to find out why you're not listening to judges, or you're picking certain cases to listen to or not. And there's no push. Even Democrats aren't. I mean, they don't have the House. I mean, it's close, but they don't have the political capital to do it. But I'm talking about this louder than Democrats are, I think. I'm confused. That's not based. Those videos, that's not based. So she was shackled at the wrists, waist, and ankles like she was Hannibal Lecter. Placed on an ICE deportation flight. You support this? She and dozens of other Honduran nationals were put on a plane at the Texas-Mexico border. She realized she was being deported when she saw that most fellow passengers were Honduran. So she didn't even know. Just 48 hours after the airport arrest. So she's in Honduras right now, to my knowledge. In direct violation of the court order that explicitly barred her removal for at least 3 days. From November 22nd to 26th, she's now back in Honduras. I think I have an updated timeline from this too, but at least to that day, she was in Honduras, a country she had not seen since childhood, which is irrelevant. I'm talking about the process. If they say she was here illegally, I don't care. Now here you go. Now you're back home. I don't have a problem with that if the process is followed correctly. López Belloza stayed with her grandparents in San Pedro Sula. She spoke with media from Honduras describing her ordeal. Detained in handcuffs, held overnight on a concrete floor, expelled without understanding why. I both burst into tears, spending the night there, sleeping on the floor. She lamented that her American dream of attending college was shattered in a matter of days. Again, that's all irrelevant, but it really does look bad. I mean, it makes Trump look bad because you use that propaganda in the other way when it's a wife beater or whatever type of thing. But now we have it in a different way where it looks more, it makes you more sympathetic. So the college alerted faculty that one of the freshmen was deported and arranged academic support so she could try to continue coursework remotely from Honduras. So the debate is over this 2015 removal order. This is what in my opinion, the algorithm is picking up. Same with Kilmar. It's saying there's this order. The algorithm is going through the court records and saying that this was whatever it was, but it doesn't necessarily know exactly the ins and outs. And if you don't have someone manually checking it, which would defeat the purpose, then you could have AI slop that says, oh, it was determined that she was denied asylum when it wasn't clear. But I don't know either way, but that's what I think is happening here. So she did enter the country with her family in 2014 as an 8-year-old. I've seen 7, 8. There's always these things that are off depending on, this one is by people said 8. The other one said 7, but whatever. An immigration judge denied that asylum claim in 2015, which absent appeal became a final removal order. Her parents say that they never understood that the case's denial triggered a deportation. And that could be true that they didn't understand it. Let's assume that it is let's assume that the 2015 order is accurate. What should happen is they wait the 72 hours and then they go the next step with the judge. That's what should happen. Her attorney reached the executive office for immigration and found no obvious record of, so then now there's dispute from an attorney. Of course, an attorney's going to dispute it. You're paying them to dispute it. Instead, he found a notation that her case had been administratively closed in 2017. In other words, the family believed their immigration case was resolved or pending, when in fact, according to ICE, a decade-old order remained active. This miscommunication is not uncommon. As of early 2025, about 1.3 million people in the U.S. had unexecuted final removal orders, many without realizing. Reinstatement and summary, and the judge now could say, hey, let's look at this again, because the judge can do whatever they want at this point. And the government could take it to the Supreme Court. I mean, and they could decide. Reinstatement and summary removal. Let me just pause and double check I'm not missing anything. I'm good. Okay. Let me check real quick on the Crowder situation. I'm just gonna do a real. So I have him in the background. I'll just show this page. Let me know if the sound doesn't work. I'm just gonna have this page up and we'll see when Nick's gonna be on, but I don't know if he's gonna start with Nick. He starts with his goofy stuff or whatever. Stewart says, I bet we can find a judge that will throw you in jail, so let's go. Yeah, that's kind of how it works. Yeah. And we have a different discussion whether that's warranted or not, but that's kind of how it works. So the lawyer is arguing that it's murky. The emergency stay on November 21st, after that emergency stay, it's definitely just meant to give the court time to review her case. According to her lawyer, DHS was formally notified of the judge's order November 21st while she was still in custody. And they still transferred her to Texas and deported her the next day. The apparent defiance of the federal judge's order is extraordinary. This is just via my research. In immigration cases, stays of removal issued by judges are legally binding. Ignoring them can constitute contempt of court. Here, the court's directive was clear, yet by the time the judge's order was circulated, ICE had already put her on a plane. That's not so then bring her back then. I don't understand what's the problem. I don't think she's back. The Associated Press reported that ICE declined to comment when asked about violating the order. No explanation has been provided as to whether this was deliberate or communication failure. In similar past instances, ICE has sometimes argued an order came too late or did not explicitly cover certain situations. But in this case, the judge's order was explicit and timely. Babson Colleges, so I don't understand that. So now when you scoop people off the street, we're racing to try to beat their due process is what it is. Noting legal privacy constraints, but calling the situation unsettling for the community. That's from Babson College. Legal experts, because I want to know, what do legal experts say? Now, who knows? There could be rabid leftists, or they're not necessarily should be trusted, of course. We have Crowder on in the background right now. Not necessarily to be trusted, but people are saying that that is unusual. It's a clear violation of federal court order. The Massachusetts-based advocacy clinic supporting her, Get Mad, was founded precisely to combat cases of immigration enforcement and direct violation of court orders. Moving forward, her legal team is likely to pursue redress for this violation, potentially asking the court to hold DHS in contempt or demand her return. So what's the consequence here too? So you have the executive branch and they heard the judge and they just say, I don't feel like listening to you. I'm going to deport her. I just want to send a message. I don't know why. Well, for whatever reason, or it was an accident where the algorithm picked her up. We didn't get the word back and we don't care. What's the consequence for that? There's no consequence other than impeaching the president. There is none. You can say we wouldn't vote for you, but there's no immediate consequence. Impeachment could start now. That's the only consequence. The judicial branch doesn't have any enforcement against the president because the president was voted in by the people. You can't take the president out of office without undoing the vote of the people. And we don't do it via let's vote again. That wouldn't make sense. We have people in Congress that represent the people, and they would say, we're going to undo my constituents are saying they're not happy with this. It doesn't matter what a high crime or misdemeanor is. They think it's a high crime or misdemeanor. So we want you up out of here. As of December 4th, no court has yet ordered any sanction or reversal, but the case raises serious rule of law concerns. So it looks like there's nothing in order yet. Man. So I tried to look into how they tracked her at the airport while these Zionist shills are cackling up on Louder with Crowder. So a key question is how an undocumented college student with an old removal, this is what I told ChatGPT, deep research. The key question here is how does an undocumented college student, it just seems so random, with an old 2015 removal. And what about the family? I'm confused. The family, did they get scooped up too? Because it was based on the family. Let me just, did the family get scooped up? Why or why not? Am I confusing? Because the asylum case was for the family. So then they would have to get scooped up. Wait, what? As of the most recent reports, December, now let me make sure it's doing the right stuff so I can get accurate information. And you have to make sure that it links you have to make sure it links the information to a link that you can check. Otherwise, it's pretty good now. ChatGPT deep research. Gemini's gotten a lot better. My wife uses Gemini now. I'm just so used to ChatGPT. That's part of the reason why. But Gemini, I mean, ChatGPT sensor is pretty strong. Gemini has loose in there, so they're pretty similar. Grok is the one where you can do it. You can crash out on Jude. You can crash out on anybody on Grok. I don't know if I've ever seen Grok censor my conversation, and it will repeat stuff to you. It's insane. I did a little video on Twitter on that. I was using Grok, and it just crashed out on conspiracy theories. It even has a conspiracy mode. So I do have to give Elon credit on that. I don't know if the ADL hasn't used it yet or what, but Grok just lets you do whatever, man, from any standpoint. It is truly the least censored of all these AIs. So it does have a purpose. So I already kind of signed up because I have a check on Twitter, so I get to use it with that. So I have Grok and ChatGPT. I'm just stalling right now because I want the answer to this. I'm stalling right now. Okay, short answer. No, her family did not get scooped up. I love how it used my words back at me. Her dad and little sisters are still in Texas. So I said, why or why not? Multiple reports say that this is Any Lucía Belloza. Her family. I'm just confused. Why was she scooped up and not the family? The asylum denial was for the family. Multiple reports say her father is in Texas raising her two younger sisters aged 2 and 5. So they were born here. Oh, is that what's happening? I don't know if they were born here or not. I think they were, obviously, because they were here 7 years ago. The Austin American-Statesman and CNN both quote the father, Francis, speaking from Austin, describing getting the call and his shock. Just answer my effing question. They note the paper is not publishing his name because of immigration status, meaning he is not safely a citizen but is still here, not detained. Why? Every story frames her as trying to fly home and now staying with her grandparents in Honduras. None of them say the family was arrested. So ChatGPT is telling me we're not saying anything about the family. Or the family was deported. If ICE had raided the house and grabbed them, so what's happening here? Only Any was taken. Why or why not? Why her and not them? She tripped the wire, they didn't. She bought a plane ticket and put herself into TSA airline screening, which feeds into DHS databases. Her name was tied to the supposed final removal order. Okay. Her parents were just at home in Austin. They didn't walk through an airport. So we know what I don't understand. Their legal posture may be different. What? We know the family lost asylum, allegedly. We do not have clear proof that the parents have an active final removal order in the same way ICE claims. How could the daughter have, how could the executive branch claim that the daughter has a final removal order, but not claim that the family doesn't have one? That part is an assumption. Either the parents' cases are in a different status. How could they be in a different status than hers? Busting a 19-year-old at an airport is easy for the machine. Storming a house in Austin to yank out a mom, dad, and 2 U.S. citizen toddlers is a much bigger political and media explosion. That's just speculating. So what? If you're for deportation and if it's that even makes it a problem for me. Mixed status families do get deported under Trump, but usually after checkpoints. Why? Because I understand the checkpoints are what triggers the algorithm, but we know the whole family has a situation. Why wouldn't they all be picked up? Wow. It's even worse than I thought. Okay. I see it. I see Nick's on. Let's bring it back. It's very important how these things start. Okay, we're off. Tell me if the audio doesn't work.
Gross. That one was terrible. So it's like, who are you going to? And I'm going to take my advice on who I can talk with from Jillian Michaels.
No.
I mean, come on. Not
going to happen.
No, that'd be like taking advice on how to use a urinal from Jillian Michaels. Although,
well, she might have some.
Surprisingly.
It's etiquette. Always leave a buffer urinal.
All right. Do we have our guest on the show? All right. It's time. And again, you guys can leave your comments in chat and we'll take some questions from you. Later on, let's welcome to the show, Nick Fuentes. Mr. Fuentes, thank you for being here, sir. Can you hear me, see me okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I appreciate the Christmas decor. A lot of people don't do that. Let me get this just out of the way really quickly. Obviously, on X, and that's a win. You're back, Nicholas J. Fuentes. It's America First on Rumble weeknights, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then as I understand it, next week you are going to be on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Yes, on Monday I'll be doing a show.
I will warn you, Piers Morgan Uncensored is rather censored. I don't know.
In what way? How do you mean?
Well, he challenged me to use the N-word on the show, and I did it 3 times, stuck the landing in front of Mark Lamont Hill. They just skimmed past it and then edited it out afterwards.
So no N-word, huh? All right, I'll have to keep that in mind.
Right.
I'll try not to use it.
If he asks you, well, would you say it, or he challenges you, and you do, he pulls a magic trick where people don't hear it.
I'll have to record it on my end. I'll just blast off. Maybe if I say it loud enough, they'll just play it anyway.
Well, I actually did that one time, so we can give you some tips. I had a buzzer every time someone would interrupt, and he edited out the buzzer. Not him, his producers. But Nick, I appreciate you being here, man. Right now it's a weird time where people are trying to tell folks they can't actually have conversations, no matter how much you agree, disagree. So I'd like to kind of set what my expectations are, because I did hear that you said you hope this would be friendly. That's my goal too. The first thing I will say, we got into it with Jillian Michaels. I should say this week, where she was demanding people disavow, and I'll get to that. I hate, above all else, it's like I feel compelled to defend, no matter who it is, when jokes or statements are mischaracterized, taken out of context. I've had that happen to me. I think it's happened to you quite a bit. I don't want to do that. All right. Hopefully, I think, neither one of us does that. And I also really hate seeing gang ups. And that's why I killed the mics. If anyone here, I really didn't like seeing what happened with Candace and Tucker, especially after you appeared with Tucker, and it seemed pretty cordial. And then he took pot shots once you were gone. I promise you, I'm not going to do that. That fair?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Okay. And what I really want to do is I want people to actually hear your...
Very interesting. This is a good start for Steven. What's happening here, Steven's going to go after him. But he wants to say, I'm going to do it in a fair way.
Or views for what they actually are. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree. And some people, they'll be moved. They'll be convinced. And I want them to make up their own mind and be able to contrast it. So I asked that we're able to do that. I will also...
And if you want no interruptions, go to Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder.
I'll say, hey, look, I do want to thank you because, I've been subject to some concerted hit pieces myself. And you didn't join in on the dog pile, and I do appreciate that.
Yeah, got to stand up for a guy. It's bros before hoes.
Well, yes.
So I'm with you.
Now, I don't so much appreciate you implying that I'm bringing talking points from BlackRock or the Israel lobby, considering I've been sued by BlackRock, and even Rumble had to fight back. So I think let's just make sure we take each other's opinions at face value. I don't think that you're paid for to say anything that you're saying, and I can tell you definitively that I've never taken a dime from an outside entity, nonprofit, or foreign interest. Is that good?
Yeah, I believe you. Sounds good to me.
Okay, all right. Also, I want to make sure we can issue so we're not mischaracterized. A lot of people watching. This is the last kind of ground rule.
Bruh, this is gay. We're just having a conversation. We don't need this. Just talk. Because you can say all this BS and then do something different. Just talk.
I want to kind of address each issue point by point. I'm going to avoid point stacking or just go rapid fire because people will use that, take it out of context. People go, and Nick wiggled out of this, and they do that with me. I want no one to mischaracterize anything. So with that said, I have a couple of rapid fires, but I think you're going to like them, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
These are layups, and I mean rapid fire, and then I want to give you the floor. Sure. Nick, I think there's some misconceptions of you. I've heard this said. Can you clear the air? Nick Fuentes, do you hate all Jews, sir?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you consider yourself an anti-Semite, a noted anti-Semite?
No.
Okay. Clears that up. Do you believe that white people are superior to all other races on the planet?
No.
Okay. Do you want to eradicate all non-whites from the United States?
No.
Okay. Well, Barry Weiss will be very happy to hear that. No doubt she's watching. And then because this happens a lot, right? Tucker did this with you. Fed. Nick Fuentes, are you in fact a Fed?
No.
Okay. I'm going to get through these rapid fire really quickly. They're actually, there's not much. So this week, Jillian Michaels will be on the show next week while you're doing Pierce Morgan Censored. And she said that we need to disavow you, and specifically said you had said that women either want or need to be raped. Now, I looked for this. I have not found as a matter of prescription from you, correct me if I'm wrong, that you believe women should be raped as a matter of policy. Do I have that right?
Yeah, you're correct on that. Yes.
Okay. All right. So she's wrong. She's just an angry lesbian. Got it. Now, finally, this one might surprise people because I know you and Charlie Kirk were sort of rivals, as you've described. Been a lot of controversy floating around that, and people often say that you blame the Jews for everything. Do you believe the Jews killed Charlie Kirk? That's one of the conspiracies out there right now. What's your position on that?
I don't believe that. As it stands right now, I think it was Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. Okay. Me too. And if there's something else, I hope that we find out. But I think a lot of people would just sort of toss you in that lot. Okay. I think we've cleared that up. So look, there's some people who might be new to you here. I know you've told your story quite a few times. Some people here may not have heard your background.
Oh no, we're gonna get the origin story again. I mean, I'm grateful that he's on there being able to do it, but if you're a Nick fan, you've literally heard this about 50 times.
Tell folks out here your story. How did you come to your current positions?
Well, I appreciate the rapid fire intro because that is my reputation. That's what people say.
Yeah, that was good. Respect to Crowder for that.
That I'm pro-rape, want to kill everybody, whatever. So
I told you you'd like them.
Audience. Yeah, I did, and I appreciate the opportunity because my audience knows that, but maybe your audience might not, or other people might not. So I actually appreciate that. And as far as how I came to my views, I've told the story many times. I'll give you kind of the shorter version. And feel free to jump in or ask me questions or clarify. But I was a fairly normie conservative in high school. I was very political since I was 12 years old. And like everybody in those days, there wasn't a lot of stuff on social media, like conservative informational content. Right. And so what you had was PJ Media, you had the Hoover Institute, you had things like this. And that's kind of how I got acclimated into conservative politics. And Prager University, all that kind of stuff. And I would say that I was about as mainstream as it gets. I was pro-Israel, pro-free market, fiscal conservative, basically libertarian is what I would say about myself. And then the Trump election kind of just hit me like a train. And I had a series of realizations about the media, about immigration and demographic change in America, what the political implications would be for that in elections, but also just in society. And then obviously the biggest and most controversial one is I really love the idea of America first. Trump said that at his inaugural. He said that at the RNC. And when I heard that, I said, that's me. Like more than I'm a libertarian or even a conservative, I'm that. I'm America first. Right. I'm a nationalist. And then I just began to notice that there was always just one exception to that rule in the conservative space, and that obviously that's Israel. And I remember I knew a lot of people from Daily Wire in college. This is jumping ahead a little bit to when I was in college. I met a lot of the writers there, and some of them were Jewish and some of them were not, but they were all extremely pro-Israel. And I remember first just thinking that was weird because you had the set of talking points from PragerU, Daily Wire, whatever, and it was like, we're in favor of gun rights, low taxes, the free market, pretty standard set. And then it was always, and Israel has a right to exist, and Palestine must be destroyed. And I said, one of these things is not like the other. Like, this is clearly different, and it's conspicuous, and you never see a critical opinion on those things. And I tweeted that, I want to say 10 years ago. I said, I've never actually seen criticism of Israel on Daily Wire or PragerU. And I remember Shapiro called me an anti-Semite for saying that. And I said, how is that anti-Semitic? And what's more, I said, that reminds me of how if you criticize women or blacks or Muslims, they call you sexist, racist, Islamophobic. I said, so how's that different?
Right.
And for that, I got blacklisted and And they really made my life a living hell.
Yeah.
These people went to American Conservative Union. They got me banned from CPAC. Cabot Phillips, who was at Daily Wire now, back then he was Campus Reform. Dad is Tim Phillips at AFP. This guy was out to get me. He was, pushing hit pieces. Shapiro was going around calling me an anti-Semite and blowing up hit pieces about me. And basically ever since then, I guess I've been kind of like, I consider myself like the Revenant. You know that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he gets like killed by a bear?
Yeah.
And then he has to fight through the wilderness. That's kind of how I feel. I was like left for dead at 18. And then I had to kind of fight to repair my reputation and like prove what I'm saying. So that's kind of the
What's crazy
spark
about that
notes of-
movie is the real story. The guy's actually more badass. I don't know if you've actually read about him. In real life, he sexually dominates the bear. But it's, I remember that big controversy when there were a bunch of conservatives saying, we're not going to go see The Revenant. There was this rumor that he was raped by the bear. I don't know if you remember that. That was a big story. And I watched it. I'm like, it's just a CGI bear.
I like this. I'm not going to lie. I might get back into Crowder if he's going to be authentic. You don't have to agree with Nick, but he's definitely giving Nick obviously shining him in a fair light. So much respect to Steven Crowder. I might get back to his show. This is good. Because right now in the atmosphere, I started the show talking about this. You either have to go strong against Nick or kind of be friendly to Nick. There's no in between. And that's what we're seeing here. And he started out saying Tucker, or even talking about Tucker kind of taking pot shots after the Tucker and Nick interview. Let's continue on. This is Steven Crowder, Nick Fuentes.
I do want to go back. So Daily Wire.
Sure.
Because I don't know if you know this. We also mentioned PJ Media. That's where I was first doing stuff in 2009 after YouTube. And like you, I grew up in Canada, so we didn't have AM radio. We didn't have Fox News. I was at Fox News for about 4.5 years, and I'd never seen anyone who was there on air. They just threw me on a panel with Alan Colmes and said, debate this guy. And then it just kind of went on for a while, and I reached the end of the road. But I don't know if you know this. I've had a little bit of a, I guess you could say, turbulent history with Daily Wire myself. Not for the same reasons, but I will say this. There have been some things that I haven't talked about publicly regarding Daily Wire. People knew the contract issues, but I know you've used the term gatekeeping, and I can tell you that was something that bothered me behind the scenes too. Let me ask you this before we get to that, because it sounds like you're saying, and this is something that I kind of seen, I've kind of watched you develop a little bit, and I can understand why someone who's young, I hate to use the term lashes out. I'm not going to put you on a couch and ask about your mother, but I can understand why you'd be upset. Was this, though, when Ben Shapiro was saying that, was it before or after the sort of what he would classify as targeted harassment campaigns from the Groypers, like, bombarding his events, and a lot of conservatives were being, doxxed and swatted? I'm not holding you responsible for that, but you know that happened quite a bit. I know you've been victim to it yourself. Was his blacklisting before that, so that your sort of campaign or your fans' campaign was a response, or was it after?
It was completely before.
Okay.
So just for the timeline, it was December 2016, and I didn't start my show until February 17. So it's before I even had a show, before I was anybody, before the Groypers were even a thing. Groypers came around in 19, so it was way before.
Okay. Because I did have the Groypers show up to like a comedy event. This happened a while ago, and they just sort of went away, and they were under the impression, I don't know if you said this, that I was like an open borders cuck. And it kind of fizzled out where I was like, well, no, I'm not. I think we should close the border, and I think we should deport people who are here not only illegally, but have stricter immigration, period. That's not a new view for me. So, yeah, I could see, though, how people, if it was under false sort of pretense. With Daily Wire, here's what I experienced. Now, I don't know about your timeline. I know Cassie Dillon posted some receipts saying, like, this is not accurate. But I would imagine you were giving general timelines and people to sort of paint a picture, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah. With Daily Wire, what would happen is, being demonetized on YouTube, they created the new rule, borderline content, because they couldn't fully remove me. Sorry about that. It was a third rule specifically because I had a lawyer and planned for this. I would get into conversations with Google executives, people at YouTube, and especially as we got toward COVID and the vaccine, right, questioning that, or the lockdowns, I would have people very high up at Google, YouTube, say, well, we don't have these kind of problems with Daily Wire. And I said, well, I'm not. And without getting into any private information, there were conversations that took place, and that was something that really rubbed me the wrong way. It was sort of, you'll kill us last, right? And they famously bragged about spending more money on Facebook and Google than anyone else. And then there was pressure being applied from YouTube to sort of step in line. So I can corroborate that that was something I experienced behind the scenes, if that helps illuminate it at all.
Yeah, and I remember it very well. I remember the Adpocalypse, and I remember your tiff with them. I remember you going on Tim Pool. I remember the whole thing, and I've heard that. Even I'm not connected, I'm not tapped in at all. I was radioactive for so long, but even I had heard rumors that they had made deals with Google behind the scenes or Facebook, and it's well known they were like the number 2 advertiser on Facebook, like number 2 overall,
right?
Not like among conservatives, period, for many years. And so, even notwithstanding the Israel stuff, nobody knows the fact that they were kind of the beneficiaries of a monopoly in the sense that, like, all their competition got banned. Anybody that was dissident, anybody that was controversial, basically was no platformed, not deplatformed, no platformed.
Yeah.
And I think you got caught up in that as well. I remember it pretty well.
Well, their contracts require it. And by the way, I was never the one to release. Just to be clear, there are some people there who I'm friends with. Jeremy Boring was never one of them. The contracts necessitated it, right? Where they would penalize their own creators. I believe it was 25% for the first YouTube suspension, 15% more, another 50. If you read the contract, 15% for Facebook suspension. And so my issue wasn't the money. My issue was like, well, first off, this would be 110% penalties for me because I'm literally suspended from all these places right now. But this is de facto doing the bidding of big tech. And that's the reason for it. I didn't like being put in that position, but yeah, so I can understand it. I can understand why a young guy would feel betrayed or feel hung out to dry. And I think that might explain it quite a bit, even if we disagree with your views. Like I told Ben Shapiro in 2016, 2017, I don't think we should be giving any money to Israel. Now, unlike you, I support them over Hamas morally, but I think we should stop funding all sides of the war in the Middle East. And hopefully you find that a reasonable position, whether you agree with it or not. I don't think that's extreme. And Ben didn't seem all too bothered by it. But I also invited him to be on the show, and he was going to, and he disappeared. But I just saw him on with Don Lemon and David Pakman, so I guess they're not so abhorrent.
That's interesting. So he agreed to come on, but then he canceled?
Yeah, it was just sort of informal, by text, and then I just haven't heard back from him. He's been on the show many times, so I'll give you credit, Nick. Candace, Tucker, Ben, Mark, everyone invited on. You're the only one with the balls to show up. I have to give you kudos for that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate, even though you didn't call me out, I saw the clip.
Well,
I was like, where's my
I knew you would
call-out?
show up. You're like the candy. You're like the candy man. I say your name 3 times in the camera, you'll show up. No, but we did reach out. I said we didn't want to because we didn't want it to be a conflict. We had already communicated, or my producer had, and I didn't want to call you out as though you were ducking. Those other people have been ducking.
Oh yeah, totally fine. No, and I'm here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. And I think we agree on. Maybe this is going to sound like I'm kissing your ass a little bit, but I do always feel like you were less bad than all the other people in the conservative movement.
That's high praise.
Well, and I know that sounds lame, but I mean, during the Groyper War, I know that Groyper showed up to your events, and I remember thinking, like, Crowder's he's not even really bad on many of the issues, like Daily Wire, even like Turning Point was 6 years ago. They got a lot better in the intervening, maybe the past 3 years.
Yeah.
But I always think you have balls. So
Well,
I think you're one of the more creditable people in the Con Inc. kind of scene.
Well, come on, don't put me in that scene. That's the thing. I'm not in that scene at all. I've been rejected by that scene, just maybe not quite like you, but quite a bit. I mean, I said the N-word on Pierce Morgan. That counts for something. I will say this though. Did you encourage the Groypers to go, or was that their own thing? That's just to clear the air.
I don't know. It was so long ago. You were not one of our major campaigns. We were really focused on Turning Point. So you might have been on the calendar. We threw together.
I wasn't around for Groyper War 1, but Nick has his archive. So I kind of gone back through. I subscribe to go to America. I think it's called America Plus, just to give a shout out to Nick's platform. I don't even have it right now, but it's something like America First Plus or something. And he has the archive of every clip, everything from his first episode ever. It's really fascinating. You can watch the whole thing. And I didn't see anything where he specifically called out Crowder. on there. The Groypers are their own kind of entity. He's the leader, but they do their own thing. Now, Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, of course, that's what the Groyper War 1 was. From my understanding and the research I did, it was really about TPUSA.
Calendar and said, these are all the speaking events in the fall. But we really focused on Charlie Kirk more than anybody.
All right. Well, then could you give me a word that you're not going to send them to like stand-up events going forward?
Well, I didn't send anybody to a stand-up thing.
Well, it was like an event, but I was just basically I was dressed like Che Guevara, like it was a Halloween. It wasn't the same kind of thing as Ben Shapiro. It might have been Brett Kavanaugh with a beer helmet. Like, it's not the same kind of show.
Sure. Yeah, no, I won't send anybody your way.
Right.
I promise.
Hey, what kind of bitch shit is that? Promise that you're not going to send anybody your way. Bitch, I will send whoever I need to send your way. This is peaceful. We're not talking about anything violent. If you say some shit and go sideways, then you're going to have some people come to your event. I don't care who you are. What kind of bitch shit is this by Crowder? This is the first time that he always does stuff like that where it's like, oh, I like Crowder. I'll rock with Crowder. And then he does some old bitch shit. Bitch, I'll do whatever. I'll send whoever I want. Yeah, I just told you I didn't send anybody your way. If you say some stupid shit, then people are going to ask you questions. Well, what's wrong with you?
Here's a funny story before we get into it, because the Groypers back then, they kind of had like rankings. Do you remember that? Do you remember this? Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
who could forget?
Okay. So you do remember. So I'm glad we're able to talk about this because, and by the way, we'll post all the videos and links, like references, in the description. So if we have a clip or some people can see the whole context. I believe it was at SMU, and I knew they were coming because I was posted on this calendar. And so, again, the same way I infiltrated ANFA, I knew every single one of them. And I knew they had rankings. I don't remember, maybe it was like private admiral, something like that. But here's how I kind of also, it was a little bit of a mind trick. So you'll appreciate this. It was nothing super bad. I said, okay, everyone who agrees with me, you line up on this side of the auditorium. It was like 2,500 seats. Everyone who disagrees here, we're going to go 1 and 1. And I saw all the Groypers line up, and they were supposed to go in a sequence, like private to general. The last second before we go, we have to change something in the venue, and we swapped the lines so that the wrong guy went first. And I remember in your groups back then, or not your groups, but whatever the Groyper had a Facebook group, one of them said, did you see I asked a question last night? And they were like, you were a stuttering, disgraceful fool. You are not amongst us. And they booted him. They drummed him out of the corps, and then I was off the list.
So that is a great, I did not know that. And that's a really great story. And they were there for the college event. From what I saw, I never heard them really going hard at Steven Crowder in particular. He wasn't really, I don't know how big he was at that time, but that's a great story.
Remember, we had generals. We didn't have, maybe they did that on their own. We had generals, and it was sort of tongue in cheek. We were a little ironic about it, but no, but I remember the tricks you guys were pulling. It was pretty, that was pretty clever. I'll give you that. It was pretty clever. That was a good counteroffensive.
You were tricking and we were tricking. And the truth is, I just wanted to do some fun stuff. All right. So since we got through that, look, America first. I identify as a conservative, as a nationalist. I wear that since it became a pejorative. Like, I thought that was sort of a default thing for America. So you wouldn't hear me saying nationalist until people were like, nationalist means you're a supremacist. I'm like, well, okay, well, then I'm a nationalist. Now I have to claim it because, of course, I want America to do best. Since I know very clearly America first, let me ask you, what do you love most about America?
Well, I love that we're a superpower. I love that because I really do believe that, when you look at the history of Western civilization, I love the idea of an empire. I love the idea of the Roman Empire, the Spanish Empire, British Empire. And I love the idea that we just have this crazy productive capacity, huge population, huge resources. I like the power of America. That's something I've really been liking a lot lately.
Okay. And of course, we don't want to take that for granted. Obviously, the power of America, that switches in a nanosecond as far as history. Is there anything else that stands out to you aside from the power? I mean, if not, we can move on to the next.
Yeah, I love political liberty. I like the Constitution. I like our culture. I like that we're like a pan-European empire. I like that, because when you compare us to Europe, you look at Europe and it's sort of petty and small, and they're squabbling and they're fighting, between these little towns and villages. And I like that there's just this sense of nationhood in America between European Christian people and other people too, of course. But for the most of our history, it was mostly the Europeans. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things I like about America.
Yeah, that's where I would already disagree with you because I was raised in Quebec, which is much more European. And I think Europe kind of sucks. I'm not a big...
Why?
Well, because there's far less freedom. I mean, in Quebec and a lot of these European nations, they had an enforced denominational form of Christianity, which didn't work out. That breeds atheism. I believe that Quebec is possibly the most unchurched population in the industrialized or Western world, even though Catholicism was a state-enforced, provincially enforced denomination. I think we're better than Europe. That's why we left. But I do understand that the founders, obviously, were largely white Christian European. I mean, Protestant, obviously. I know you and I, we'll quibble about that, but that is the basis here.
I don't know why we have to quibble about that. It's so petty. I mean,
It doesn't mean that Catholics aren't welcome. But let me ask you, what about the founding, like founding fathers? Is that something? Because I know you have opinions kind of on both sides of that, and I think they're.
I want to hear Nick address the European because I agree with Stephen Crowder on that. It's the toxic white Christianity that has led to the downfall of Europe. I want to hear a conversation on that. Europe doesn't even believe in a patriarchal society anymore. They've got women running stuff and all kind. They've really destroyed their country. We're on that same path.
More nuanced, but is that a big part of what you like?
I love the founding fathers. I think they're brilliant. I love George Washington. I love Hamilton. I like John Adams. I think they're remarkable people. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Notice Nick never mentions Jefferson. That's not an accident. I like Jefferson way more than Nick does, but that's interesting. Every time he brings that up, I always think like, "Where's Jefferson?" Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Political liberty. Can you kind of explain, I guess, that a little bit? Because that's where I know you've said that you differ with conservatives, and I don't want to mischaracterize you. I understand you've said that you're not "quote unquote" conservative. That's not you
Right.
identify as America first. So political liberty, what does that mean?
I would say I'm more reactionary than conservative. That's why I don't mean when I say I'm not conservative that I'm something else. And so, as far as political liberty goes, I like that in our country, we have a generally permissive climate. I think, of course, that's gone too far in some ways. But I do like that we have a free press. I like that we have the right to own guns. I am a capitalist. I'm not an ideological free market person, but I like that we have private property. I like we can own what we earn. And on some level, I like that we have a republic. I'm very into the idea that we have Republican sovereignty. That we have rights. They're protected by God. The Constitution respects that also. Okay. And I would say, because I could kind of see maybe, I don't know if you're comfortable with this, if I could go a little further here.
Sure. I mean, go wherever you want. And as long as you're comfortable with me disagreeing and understanding that it's meant to be fair, but I'll let you know where I do.
Yeah, because maybe I could see where you're going with this. I'm really not like a totalitarian. I don't want a police state, to the extent that people say these things about me, like you're a fascist, you're a communist, or a socialist. I'm very much not in favor of that sort of thing. I just think that, in the past 30 years, we've gone a little bit too far in the other direction. That's all. No,
and I wouldn't disagree with that last part, by the way. For example, I think it's very reasonable to say, you know what, maybe OnlyFans isn't a good thing. When you have libertarians going, oh yeah, if they ask for identification to prove you're of age to get pornography, the next thing you know, they're going to take your guns away. I'm like, I think that being 18 to get hardcore pornography kind of makes sense. So if addressing the hardcore libertarian sort of ideology, I would agree. If it goes towards like a theocracy or something like that, which I know you've discussed, I would disagree. And look, I want to play this because, of course, everyone's going to ask me to ask you this about the Tucker Stalin clip. So what I want to do is play it, and then I know that you've already explained it more recently. I want to play a longer clip in context and then give you the floor, because otherwise people say, why did he softball him and not ask about Stalin? Here's the clip for those who haven't seen it from Tucker Carlson.
So it was like late December. It's actually funny. It was December 18th. I remember because that's an important date to me. And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday. Oh, I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's.
Always an admirer, but we don't need to go into that. I guess. Like,
Well, that's okay. Let's get back. We'll circle back to that.
And then he called you a gay fed. No, I'm kidding, but pretty much that's what he did. People are mad at him for softballing. I think he didn't. I think that would be fair to press. I just think he was fundamentally dishonest in a lot of ways, because the second you left, it was a different Tucker again. Is that a fair assessment? I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, 100%. And, I had the same experience with Candace. I went out there because him and I had beef. Me and Tucker had been privately and then publicly beefing for years. And, he called me on the phone over the summer and we talked a little bit. And then somebody arranged, Alex Jones was a part of it and somebody else kind of put this together. I went out.
Wait.
Dinner for
Alex
3 hours.
Jones was the mediator?
He was.
You two kiss and make up. All right, come on, this is enough.
I mean, I can't imagine him being the middle ground, but okay.
He's a sweet guy, he's
a teddy bear.
Guy. Yeah. So he didn't want to see us fighting because he loves Tucker, he loves me. He kind of put it together for us, and so I go out there, we have dinner, we do the show, and at no point during the show or during the dinner was it really even contentious. Was there really even an explicit disagreement? We had some disagreements, but he kind of tried to avoid those. I don't think that he was very forceful or direct about those. And then I went on my show the next day and said, yeah, it was a great interview. I thought it was really nice, and we're on the same page now. And then every single interview that he has done since then, he doesn't say my name without calling me an anti-Semite. He's going and doing the circuit, and every show that he goes on, he says, Nick is really talented and this and that, but I don't agree with his anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. And I'm like, okay, so where was that during the dinner? Where was that during the show? I didn't hear that during the whole thing. I'm an anti-Semite now. And I wish he would have brought that up during the discussion, because I would have loved to discuss that or to dispute that or whatever. But it's like you said, I got a completely different Tucker after the fact in all these other shows. He's going around and telling everybody, that like it's the making of a murderer.
Right.
Like I could see why people like him, even though he's so awful.
Like you're the Averys. Yeah, you got them Jews there. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Candace will make another show about that like 9 years later. Okay, so that's she did like something about making a murderer. I was like, what is this? This is very late. Okay, but going back to that's the clip that people say, ask him about Stalin. And I would have, in Tucker's shoes, asked you about Stalin. Now, I've seen you on another show explain it more recently. Now, I can't play the whole clip because it'll be really long, but I want to play a longer one and then allow you to provide any missing context. I can't remember the name of this, something Danny D, Johnny G, play it.
Tommy G.
Tommy G, I was close.
Agree you have some hilarious moments, but there was a moment from the Tucker Carlson interview I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
You mentioned Stalin. You're a fan of his work?
Yes.
Was that serious or a joke?
That wasn't a joke. But, it's like anything else. I love history and I love stories. And to me, Joseph Stalin is an extremely compelling figure. I would say more, you'd be surprised to hear this, than Hitler. Everybody pegs me as like a Hitler guy. I'll tell you, and I'm not saying this to pander, I'm not saying this, because I care about what you think of me. I really don't even know that much about Hitler. I never found Hitler to be that interesting. I think that there's narratives about Hitler that are interesting. In America, if you talk a certain way about certain issues, they say you're a Nazi, you're Hitler. So it's interesting in that way. But for me, Stalin is the far more compelling figure. And I say that because, while everybody focuses on Hitler, Stalin is a person who takes Russia, which is the most backwards country in Europe at the beginning of the 20th century.
Industry,
serfs and peasants and just all around immiseration and poverty. He takes a country like this, and by the time he dies, it's a nuclear empire. It's a global superpower. It's like the most unbelievable story in the history of mankind. And so I don't think he's a good person. He's an evil person. He's one of the villains of history. But in terms of his effects, he's an effective ruler. And I think that's interesting.
Okay. Now that clip goes on, we'll make the link available. I don't want to do an interview where everyone's watching you watch you. But so with that, and I was asked about this on Piers Morgan. and again asked to condemn, Stalin. I said, look, I don't know. He could have meant, and by the way, I don't know if you have a cold. I have a holes in my throat right now. I notice everyone's a little bit sniffly. I said, he could have been saying he's fascinated. Like, for example, I've been going down a rabbit hole of Stalin versus Trotsky, like how much they hated each other, which would seem odd to us because they're very similar. The spoiler alert, it's two assholes fighting. That's pretty much all it is. And I would be curious to ask him about that. So when people say disavow without having the full context, I think that's wrong. Now, that said, my question to you would be, I know that you have said we need a Catholic theocracy or a Christian theocracy. I've heard the word dictatorship, correct me if I'm wrong. So I would ask you, since the end point seems much more similar to where Stalin reached, just swap atheism for Catholicism or Christianity, would you be able to name, or is there any one thing that you think America, like concretely, should copy about Stalin's rule or methods to get there?
Not his methods, because, like I said, he's an evil person, or a murderer, and genocidal, arguably with the famine. I mean, I think it's pretty clearly intentional that they were trying to kill all those people there, and so I want to make that clear. Sometimes I feel like it's almost childish, and I'm not saying that about this interview, but just in general, when people say, "Wait, but he was a bad guy," it's like, I know he's a bad guy. Like, I know he was evil. And I suppose the thing that I find maybe more compelling about Stalin as a ruler is the way that he industrialized the country. I'm very interested in this because that is, among the other things that I talk about, a very important problem in the country is that we're deindustrialized. Yeah. And what Stalin did, and I said that in that clip and in other clips too, he takes a country that has no industry. And he literally, and with brutal, evil methods that I would not, I don't replicate, I don't support that. But he does take the country and drag it into the 21st century. And he does that by bringing in heavy industry. The 5-year plans, the collectivization of the farms, it was about prioritizing heavy industry so that they could eventually build ships and planes and tanks and, the things that they needed to fight the war. So,
but it was about seizing industry. And it was about doing it by force. I mean, secret police, the party purges, the show trials. So if you say the industrialization of the country, how do you separate that from, the only methods were largely evil, or certainly his calling card methods, right? That's where people would say, okay, if you point to him as an example, is there anything worthy of emulating other than, because you could point to other countries that have industrialized, including the United States.
Well, I don't think that is necessary. I think because it starts with the idea that a country, an empire, needs industry. You need to be able to make things. We don't make things. We don't even make the machines that make things anymore. China makes all the things. And so starting from the idea where Stalin says in the 20s, he says, we're either going to do in 15 years what it would normally take us 100 years to do, or we're going to die. Our country will not exist anymore because we are encircled. And I feel like America's in sort of a similar position where we need to race ahead of China or else we are going to be destroyed. We need industry back in the country. And I don't believe in taking grain to feed the factory workers and enslaving people in gulags. But I do think the government needs to set. It's sort of like when JFK said, we're going to go to the moon in 10 years. Yes. I like the idea, this ambitious idea of we're going to catch up in 10 years. We're just going to go out there and do it. We're just going to build it. And I don't support, killing people. I don't think you need to kill people to achieve that. But I like the idea of urgency, setting targets, having a national strategy. Yep. And, and doing it for the sake of power projection.
That's what Trump should have done with the Liberation Day. That's what it should have been. It shouldn't even have been about the tariffs. The tariffs should have been a part of that push where we're not just a customer service society. We're not just an AI-built society, meaning that the AI companies are the only product. That's not a product. That's what the push should have been. The push should have been for industry, infrastructure to find and chase China. We need to have cities that have all the buildings are connected and can celebrate Christmas together or whatever and do lights. And what it is not about the final product of the light. It's that we can do this. We can build the bridge in a year, 5 years, or whatever that would take another country 20 years. This is the push. And then not only that, bringing the jobs back. That should have been what Liberation Day was about, not the tariffs directly.
Well, and I agree, by the way, industrialization, right, is good. We went through that in America quite a bit before Russia. The reason they had to play catch up is because it was an awful place and they had to do it by force. So my question is, am I mischaracterizing? And everything that I ask is genuine here because I'm trying to see where we disagree. Because I think Stalin is a fascinating historical character. You're talking to a guy, we did the great Diktoff, where we did brackets for 3 days of Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao. Funniest one was Papa Doc in Haiti because he sucked. Pinochet, who wasn't all wrong. And we were very clear about this. And I think Mao ended up winning. Might have been Pol Pot, though the number wasn't as high, but he was just really dumb and really brutal, which is a bad combination. How could you get, if we're talking about now, to Stalin's industrial results without Stalin's methods? If you want to get to a Catholic, first off, have you said Catholic theocracy? Is that, am I misquoting?
I might have said it, but I don't believe in a Catholic theocracy. I think that the government should be Christian, but not a theocracy.
Okay. Not a dictatorship either?
We might need a very powerful executive for a short amount of time. I think that's maybe unavoidable.
Okay.
But not an ideological totalitarian state, no.
So how do you get to that in the industrialization that you talk about with Stalin? How do you get it? How do you get there?
I think that you need tariffs. I think you need subsidies. I think you need a massive public works program, something like the New Deal. And I know you're probably not a fan of that because I know you're a huge free market guy, but I think that one of the things the free market doesn't do well is it doesn't allocate resources efficiently on like a long-term timeline. In a long-term timeline, America needs to have a ton of industry to be able to support its Navy, to be able to protect supply chains and trade routes. And the free market has not been able to accomplish that. So I think that the government needs to intervene in this case and basically say, like, we're not going to import these manufactured goods from China. We have to make them ourselves. We need to subsidize them. And maybe we bring people on, onto the dole of the state in a public works program to accomplish some of these things. So I believe in an intervention from the state to do that.
Well, okay. So I understand, by the way, tariffs, I understand. And especially when you look at the revenue they'll be generating, I don't think that's an infringement of the free markets. I think it's a correction of an unfair market, of a market where we've been fleeced. So I think we agree on that.
Wait, that's not a fair market then. What are you talking about? It's literally in the title, fair market.
I believe in an intervention from the state to do that.
Well, okay. So I understand, by the way, tariffs, I understand. And especially when you look at the revenue they'll be generating, I don't think that's an infringement of the free markets. I think it's a correction of an unfair market, of a market where we've been fleeced. So I think
he's saying tariffs are not no, Nick's not saying that the tariffs go against the free market principles. He's talking about the public works and all that. Basically, the government would it's literally fascism, take over just industry in general on how to run it. That's not a fair market. But we don't have a fair market now.
we agree on that. Subsidies are massive public works. I mean, we have a debt. Is it 39 trillion? I haven't looked at the clock recently. So I certainly wouldn't say that we haven't been subsidizing things. We absolutely have. And
so then that's not a free market. Because if you subsidize one industry or a few companies and you don't others, how's that a free market? So we don't have a free market now.
We can't afford it. And the old joke, right, in Russia is they pay us to look like we're working, and we look like we're working. Like they look like they're paying us, we look like we're working. We've done this here in the States. I mean, if you go back to FDR, and maybe you're a fan of FDR's approach. Certainly Barack Obama, the biggest modern spending package. I was around for that. Shovel-ready jobs was awful. And same thing for Russia. I mean, if you throw enough bodies and human suffering at something, you can get something done. But even then, it was still significantly behind the world that was more free, the United States. So where have we not done it? Because I look at it and I go, well, we have been subsidizing almost everything. I agree with you on China. I agree with you on tariffs. I think that's a huge threat. What would that look like?
Well, I don't think we've been subsidizing industry. I'm not saying just like subsidies across the board. I mean, we need to actually subsidize and prioritize the industries that we need in the country. So like, for example,
well, we have to a certain extent. The CHIPS Act is the only thing that Joe Biden did that I even somewhat support. And in theory, I fully support. Just the fine print is always where it gets hazy. But we've done that, but we haven't done a lot.
the CHIPS Act.
Oh.
I think that was a great thing. I don't think it was.
I didn't even know. That's why I should just shut the hell up. Let Nick cook. Steven Crowder, Nick Fuentes. What an interview. This is a great discussion.
Enough, and I don't think it was comprehensive. But I want more things like that. Like, there's no reason why. They're doing it in Arizona. They're bringing TSMC over to Arizona. They're building a chip fabrication facility. We need that. And I think the government should give tax breaks or just straight up give subsidies to the companies that are going to do that. And I think that we need aggressive trade negotiations. I guess maybe where we differ ideologically is that I want a very smart government. I liked what Doge did. I like the idea.
I think the Doge was terrible. Oh my gosh, I completely disagree with Nick Fuentes on Doge. We can break down Doge another time. I'm heated about Doge. I don't know what Nick's going to talk about with Doge there. That was a con. That was a scam. Doge was a scam. Horrific there. I think that might be one of the few times where I think that's a horrific take where Nick Fuentes is going to go there. But I think breaking down, I want to back this up just a little bit. Hold on.
Going to do that. And I think that we need aggressive trade negotiations. I guess maybe where we differ ideologically.
Where I see them, because does Steven Crowder support a Christian-based government? That's where I'm seeing the difference. I don't know his position that well, but it doesn't sound like I'm hearing that from him, or I've never heard it from him when I used to watch him. Maybe I'm wrong, and not by force or anything like that. This is peaceful discussion of getting non-Zionist Christians. That is the fundamental difference. The fundamental difference, I think, between Nick and Crowder is, I don't think Nick cares what type of government it is. It's the morals of the people running it that matters. I know that's my position. I think that's Nick's position too. I think Nick would agree with that. To do it quickly, you might need the executive branch to be a dictator, basically. But it's not about that. It's about what are their morals. So I think that's where the difference is. I want to, hopefully they hone in on that.
Is that I want a very smart government. I liked what Doge did. I like the idea of bringing people from the private sector into the government. And even Trump said that in 2016 to work on trade deals, to work on, for example, China steals all our intellectual property. They steal all of the developments that we have. We need people that know about technology almost in a.
So if you bring Doge in, the problem is it's led by private industry and I don't know what Elon Musk's religion is now, a guy who wants to be jokingly aspiring Jew. He's not Christian. So and he's Zionist. So it doesn't matter if you bring in a private, you could bring in all the private people you want. If they're Zionists, they're not going to be, it's not even just about Israel. They don't have the same morals. They don't have the same focus. That's the problem.
Technocratic way, like true experts guiding our trade policy, guiding in some ways our economic policy, setting a benchmark that it's like we need like 10% of the economy or 15 or 20% of the economy to be productive in 5 or 10 years. We need to be making ports, ships, or we need to have countries in our orbit that can do it for us, like South Korea or Japan. But we just need people that are in charge that are, kind of aware of this problem. So I guess that's maybe the difference.
No, I don't think that's the difference. I can outline maybe the difference based on what you just said. I don't have a problem with tariffs. Sure. I know what you're talking about with the CHIPS Act. I agree. And I think a big problem is, absolutely, Chinese stealing intellectual property. That's why I think they're a huge threat. What I see, I mean, then you could point, though, to like American auto manufacturing, which has been abysmal. I mean, industries that have been heavily subsidized. I mean, if you look at insurance industries, pharmaceutical companies, if you look at energy companies, I mean, you remember also about Solyndra, green energy companies.
Totally.
Every company that's been heavily subsidized and regulated tends to be less efficient and it tends to be more expensive. But we do need to protect certainly things that are, I would say that chips are a matter of national security. But my thing there is you say you like Doge. Well, I don't know why you think I would differ. That was largely, axing things. You've just mentioned stuff that really for the first time.
These guys are so bad on Doge. Man, they're not good. Not a good take on Doge. Not good. Doge was a scam from the beginning for Elon Musk to get rid of the people who were looking into Tesla. A lot of them were looking into Tesla for wrong reasons, but that's not the point. To get rid of all those people and then after that to open the floodgates to bring in Peter Thiel. Elon Musk is a Peter Thiel stooge. And the background deal is I get to go to Mars, I get to go to the moon if I let you guys, help you guys get power. He got into the executive branch, brought in all his tech guys, AI guys, installed his software for the executive branch, and then said, let's bring in Palantir to solidify it all. And Nick knows that. So I'm not saying anything Nick doesn't know. Steven Crowder is worse on this topic than Nick. I don't know why Nick is saying that, though. I think he's saying on principle, and I just don't know. I don't know. I'm just not there with Doge.
Has been done under this administration. And where we differ is I go, is it perfect? No. Is it a step in the right direction compared to Biden, compared to Barack Obama? Yeah. And then I know that you've also talked about having to burn it all down. So where I differ is, you've said you're reactionary, or I've heard you use the term maybe accelerationist. Well, accelerate toward what? Because if that's what you want, and I agree with you, we're getting more of that than ever before. So how would you get there, and why would you burn down the progress that's being made?
Well, I'm not an accelerationist. I think that I think that's sort of misguided, because if we're, and I agree with you, accelerating towards what? That's the operative question. So that's why I'm not an accelerationist. I think that to make things worse is only basically to vote in favor of chaos and death and potentially civil war, low-level political violence, and I think you're rolling the dice with that. So I'm with you on that. As far as the Trump administration is concerned,
can I pause you?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
And I don't want to interrupt, but like I said, I want to address kind of the points individually.
No, totally. Yeah.
Feel free. Okay, and hopefully you think this is fair, because I really do want to be, and I know that I disagree with you on some fundamentals here, but you did say that Kamala Harris would be a better choice. And you did take billboards out against Donald Trump and told people not to vote in certain elections. That would be, and the just maybe you didn't use the term accelerationist, but you said at least then that would sort of ignite what we need, because it's a uniparty, it's all the same. Right, so I view that as accelerationism, whereas I see where we agree, where we find progress, I would argue is better than 4 years of Kamala, and I would argue that.
So we're arguing that Trump is better than Kamala Harris? That's what it's come to? Who cares? What the hell? Is that a defense of Trump? He's better than Kamala Harris? I don't acknowledge that. I'm not going to speak to Nick. But I don't even understand why why is that even a point of conversation? I'm not a Republican. Don't care about even MAGA or anything. I'm America first, meaning not even the Nick, I align with that, but not even the Nick version, just America first, period, as a statement. That has nothing to do with MAGA, Republicans, Kamala Harris, or Trump. Who cares? Your argument is that Trump would have been better than Kamala Harris? Why are we even talking about that?
We were at the precipice of, really, we were looking at sending into the abyss 15 million on the low end illegal aliens, and not to mention the legal immigration problem. Add another 10 million with Kamala Harris, we no longer have a country, where you and I would both agree. So that's where I don't understand your position.
Yeah, well, let's sit in this for a minute. So first of all, and I just want to clarify, I know you know this, but maybe your audience doesn't. I never told people to vote for Kamala. I didn't vote for Kamala. I never told people to vote for Kamala. I didn't endorse Kamala. My plan in and again, as long as we're in good faith, I'm going to explain to you my thought process on this last year. It looked at.
This is Groyper War 2 that I participated in on the channel. This is Groyper War 2.
One point, like this was going to be a very contentious election, like it would be very close. It turned out not to be, and eventually it became clear that it wouldn't be. But it seemed like maybe this election would come down to one state, like Michigan or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, one of the three Rust Belt states. And my problem in 24 is that Trump was not promising an immigration moratorium. In fact, he was saying the opposite. he said that he would staple green cards to diplomas, which is a very famous policy. It's been around for decades, and Democrats and Republicans have said, we're going to give green cards to every foreign student. I said, that's a disaster. That's terrible. And then the other thing is, there was a rumor that he had a quid pro quo arrangement with Miriam Adelson that he would allow Israel to annex the West Bank and intervene in the war with Iran. And so those were kind of my two issues. As I said, if we elect Trump, we're going to get all these Chinese and Indians. They're going to get green cards, and we're going to get H-1Bs because that's what Silicon Valley wants. And we're going to get a war with Iran. And so I looked at it this way. I said, if the America Firsters rise up and sort of tell Trump, here's the ultimatum. You can come out and say you're against the H-1Bs and the F-1 and green cards, then you could say you're not going to bring us to war in Iran, and we'll vote for you. But if you don't, we can't vote for you. And that was kind of the idea. It was like a contract with the Trump team. Now, ultimately, Trump became basically, his advantage grew to be so big that he wasn't worried about losing in one of those states. And I felt that way. I said, we don't have leverage anymore because he's leading by so much. It's clear he's going to win. And that's why we sort of abandoned it in the middle of it. But aside from, so that's where that came from.
Just to clarify, abandoned what?
Abandoned that project, the Groyper War II, because we were going to go to Michigan and we were literally going to knock on doors and hand out leaflets and stuff. And we said, you know what, let's just not anymore because he's going to win anyway. So we bought one billboard.
You were going to knock on the doors and tell people to vote for Trump, the Groypers in Michigan?
Yeah, no, to sign on to something like a pledge that would say, we will not vote for Trump unless. That was kind of the idea. And
So we'll see what Steven Crowder says in response here. But the only big picture response, you can have little disagreements on whether you wanted to do that or not, but if you take the helicopter up, the only big picture response to this is, that is how you play politics. The politicians work for us. So you might disagree with Nick, but if Nick wants to push Trump in a certain direction, that is the beauty of this country. If you want reparations, that's what you should be doing with the Democrats. It's not about the issue. That is how our political system should work and does work. They have the money, we have the people. That's why Nick is dangerous. So we will see what Steven Crowder says here, but that is the only big picture response to that. Well played. You don't vote for anyone on any level if they're not going to do something that you would support. Why would you do that? Why would Nick vote for Trump when Trump at that time and J.D. Vance were openly disavowing Nick? Why would he support that on any circumstance? Let's see what Steven Crowder says here. This might be the best Nick interview, one of the best Nick discussions I've ever heard, honestly. So I'm quickly wrong. I was like, why would Nick go on Crowder? Crowder was honest and great discussion.
We sort of spun that up, but we abandoned it when it became clear that he would win.
Okay. And I understand that, by the way. I understand the idea of holding the representatives accountable. I mean, that's why we have primaries. But hopefully that's a part of your strategy, because a lot of people just don't run in primaries, and that's a viable option. But I do remember what caught me off guard, you saying that Kamala Harris was a better choice. And I remember part of what you said was because Trump, if he's elected, legitimizes the system.
What is the problem? And I don't remember Nick saying that or not, but I have the same. I mean, a lot of the things that are happening now, and I think Nick has to take this answer towards the JQ, because Trump is ramming through, and he already has, where you talked about Miriam Adelson, so he's going to do it in a very intellectual way. But in many aspects, you could say he's worse. I've said Trump is worse than Joe Biden. That's what I mean.
And that would be worse. You didn't want Trump to be elected because it would legitimize the system. Explain what you meant by that, because that sounds to me like you want to delegitimize and almost revolution instead of Trump.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that Trump is obviously the better president if you're just taking like all the nominal figures, like fewer illegal immigrants, he secured the border, the economy's going to be better, the government's going to be more efficient. Like, so, I mean, we're in agreement on that. Here's the problem. And I I try to make people think about it in these terms. It's
Sure.
And I don't want this to sound like a cop-out, but I'm trying to get people to think, which is that
Right.
Trump gets elected, and let's think about what happens on day number 2. Whereas in 2020, everybody said the election is rigged. Like 86% of Republicans said, oh, the election was BS. Now,
It was close to half of Democrats, too, I think.
Yeah, it was substantial. It was across the board. Now nobody believes that. And whereas at one time people believed like, oh, like the system really needs to be overthrown. Like we really need radical change. Now they're saying, oh, Trump won. Oh, I feel relieved. Now we're okay. And look at the things that Trump has done. And we're going to get in. I can tell we're going to get into some of these things. The Epstein files, bombing Iran. And I'm not gish galloping. I'm just giving a little list of things I don't like. The H-1B visas, the 600,000 Chinese students.
Yeah.
All these things happen. And because they're happening under Trump, he is legitimizing them, and he's legitimizing the moneyed interests that are responsible for them. And I do think that deflates a lot of the fervor for change that existed before. And I just think sometimes, is that necessarily better in the long term? I don't disagree that Trump is, there's a very big pragmatic benefit, but in the long term, I worry about that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's better in the long term. I agree with you completely on 600,000 Chinese students. I don't know if you saw, we did an entire hour on that. H-1Bs. I was throttled as a result from, well, I can't say Elon Musk directly, but I believe I perhaps called him a retard, whatever it was. I insulted him quite publicly. And, for my troubles, made $27 in the course of a month on X. Ashley Sinclair made like 26 grand in 2 weeks. Who knew, right? That's kind of odd. Yeah. I agree with you on H-1Bs. I will tell you, worse than 600,000 Chinese students would be another 15 to 20 million illegals and changing the census rule, which is what we were looking at, where that redistricts the entire map. And there's no chance to any type of conservative, Republican, nationalist, populist being elected.
I don't care about them, Stephen. And?
Again. And I do think that there was a lot of progress made. I would go, a lot of wins, not only the board. 99% is not marginal to me as far as a reduction. I think that's pretty significant.
Securing the border are table stakes. That's not something for me to be clapping about. And before leading into that election, Kamala Harris was saying she was going to secure the border. I don't think it was going to be open either way. That's the only thing. What else are you pointing to? The only thing that I give Trump credit for is pardoning the J6ers. And he had to. But I still give him credit. That's the only thing. The tariffs haven't worked out. I haven't done the deep dive into them. I like the idea of the tariffs, but it just has been all bluster. I have one thing that I'll say Donald Trump did well is pardoning the J6ers. That's it.
But I'd like to go to, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that perspective. But I also don't understand what the threshold is as far as, okay, burn it all down, or we want to delegitimize the system. Because I know we lived through that. Like you just said, Republicans thought it was an illegitimate election. I did.
The red line is Israel, Zionist, and Jews. That's the red line. So we'll see if they get into that. It's more than that, but that is the fundamental problem.
As well. Not a whole bunch of folks at the Daily Wire back then, so I think we were on the same page. And I also, obviously, when we had the lockdowns, all of that, we then lived through 4 years of Biden, right? So it was already seen as not legitimate. We saw the results. I think the results of not electing another Biden is better. But I would like to roll a clip, because I think it's in this vein, and might help set it up. It was where you discuss, Epstein, too. That's one thing. Of course, I absolutely agree. I don't know if you know, I recreated the Epstein cell down to the millimeter and tried to hang myself with a force meter.
I saw that, yeah.
It's possible, not likely. So I thought it was a huge mistake. I think Pam Bondi's an idiot. And I mean actually like an idiot, like she potentially could be a mongoloid, using the term hate speech. She's a moron, and I've always said that, using the term, and that rollout was terrible. That doesn't undo the things that a lot of people...
What do you mean? Supporting Trump and his head attorney general is talking about hate speech? That doesn't undo it? Are you crazy? It's the First Amendment.
Who elected not just Trump, but the cultural wins that they want. I think there's a lot of good there, and I don't think burning it down is the best approach. But here you mentioned a new potential coalition, and I think sort of lay out a prescription as to how to go forward, and I'd like to ask you about it. And again, we'll make the link to the full show available so that no one mischaracterizes anything.
Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie working together against the interests to compel the files. What do you think that has? A 90% approval rating? If you had progressive Democrats and nationalist Republicans working together, let's say to compel the release of the Epstein files, what kind of approval rating do you think that has? 90%? And what if they got together and they opposed foreign aid to Israel? What approval rating do you think that would have? 90%? Do you think that that Republicans or independents running under that brand, do you think that that would become more popular or less popular over time? 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16. It snowballs. And we need to propel someone into the White House that is just a populist. If the right can come down on health care and on a social safety net and maybe on some subsidies for education, and if the left can come down on the anti-white open border stuff and they can agree that we have a country, that party will win 90% of the vote and rule for a century. That's the compromise. That's the populist compromise.
Okay, and I think you were, you articulated that pretty well. I would say Epstein already has a coalition. Everyone voted to release the files except Clay Higgins, who is a punchline, deservedly so. Like, that's the first time everyone knew Clay Higgins. Like, he really must love pedophiles. I wish I loved anything as much as he loves defending sex islands. I would like to hear your prescription for how that works, because I would say this. If the only compromise was the left on immigration, and if I believe that there was any semblance of a reality in which they compromise on immigration, and compromising on free markets to varying degree, okay. But what do we do with a Ro Khanna on the Second Amendment, on the First Amendment, on transing the kids, on reparations that someone like a Ro Khanna or any member of the Democratic Party, but Ro Khanna specifically says is a priority economically and morally, on abortion? What do you do with all of the other compromises that aren't listed? How does that coalition work, and bring me through the end point?
Well, and I'm not a huge fan of either of them, actually. You could also say Thomas Massie on H-1Bs. You could say Thomas Massie on immigration also.
You could say him on Israel also, as far as his biggest donor. It's not AIPAC, but a lot of influence.
Certainly. But what I'm referring to is maybe more something like Trump 2016, who is basically a populist. And you look at Trump in 2016, and to me, that's kind of the prescription, where it's like in 2016, he comes out, and he says, we're going to get the money out of politics. He says, I'm not going to take donor money. I'm not going to take super PAC money. I don't listen to special interests. He says, law and order, close the border. As far as healthcare, he didn't even give a plan. He said, we'll just take care of everybody. He said, we'll get rid of the lines around the states and we'll just take care of everybody. Who even knows what that means? And he says, we're going to put America first in foreign policy. Now, I think that here's the thing. I'm under no illusions. We're not going to win 80% of the left or 40% or even 30%. But I'm thinking that if we can win, because I think there are a lot of people on the far left or even some of the abundance liberals, they're getting tired of a lot of the far left too. There's a lot of these liberals in the center that are saying, how are you going to have public transportation when you have people getting stabbed in the neck and there's no police? Like, we can't defund the police and even have these cities that we want to have. I think there's a lot of people on the far left, too, that are saying, maybe the woke has gone too far.
I'm sorry, was that a quote? Did Ro Khanna say that, or was that just a general sentiment?
No, I'm not talking specifically about Ro Khanna. That's just an example.
Because when I hear it, I almost thought you said I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like something a liberal would say, like, stab the cop in the neck.
No, when people are being stabbed in the neck by, like, black people, for example.
Oh, that's also something I could hear a leftist supporting. But yes, okay, go on. I just didn't know if it was specific. Okay, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, fundamentally, it comes down to the fact that, let's just talk about it in general. So that's my prescription. It's like populist Trump, and let's just get a small percentage of the left liberals, who I think have come a long way in the past 5 years since COVID. But I would say that in general, I think maybe where we disagree is I look at this Republican team. What has it actually done for us? Because you seem to be defending like, well, we're supposed to vote Republican and we're supposed to say, well, this is better than the alternative.
No.
And he's making these wins. Well, hang on. And I look at it and say, It's been 10 years of Trumpism. And, I know Biden brought them in, but we're 10 million illegals up since Biden, and there's no mass deportations. I look at the wars. We're getting into more wars, not fewer. He wanted to keep us in Afghanistan and Bagram. He's building bases in Syria. We're getting into Venezuela. I look at what we have not done in 10 years, and I say, this is a prescription where it hasn't been working. And so I'm very against this line where you say, well, we're going to vote Republican and we're going to, what exactly? I mean, what's your prescription? If Trump is failing us miserably, what are we supposed to do here?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I don't agree that our representatives are all failing us miserably. I think they failed in quite a few ways. If you're talking about like the Johnsons of the world and the Rhinos, absolutely. But the things that you just listed, and I would, again, ask you for your prescription because I give mine Monday through Friday. I mean, every day, 11 a.m. Eastern. I've done one on voting, what we need to do. I've done one on immigration, done one on big tech and Section 230. I'm very curious as to your prescriptions so that people can contrast them. You mentioned law and order. I don't know of any president who sent the National Guard in as aggressively when we're talking about D.C. and Chicago. That way you talk about law and order. You're talking about
in Chicago?
Well, I'm saying any effort being made. I know what we've lived through as far as what Ro Khanna would support, Black Lives Matter, the Police and Justice Act. Again, I don't think
happened under Trump in 2020.
So let me ask you, what's your prescription? Why hopscotch all the people who I think watching right now would agree with you if they think that you're on board with them on LGBTQ, on immigration, on Second Amendment rights, on First Amendment rights? Why hopscotch then to compromise with someone who has actively fought to destroy all those things like a Ro Khanna? Wouldn't it make more sense to form a coalition with more than half the country who already exists? Because you don't want to take them for granted. Take Trump out of it. I'm talking about the people, the voters. What's your prescription?
I would say that it's a structural problem, which is that the reason, first of all, I mean, we have to deal with the fact that Trump is not delivering. Like, if you don't want to gish gallop, let's just start there. You say, well, I don't think it's a complete failure. Yeah, it is. And you bring up BLM. BLM happened in 2020 because Trump let it happen, because Sean Hannity was calling him every day and saying, this is better for us in November if BLM burns down the cities. So the summer of love happened in 2020 when Trump was president. And then Trump comes back.
No, it started under Barack Obama with going back to Trayvon Martin.
The George Floyd summer of love.
Yeah, it was a continuation.
Well, I think they kind of picked up on it. Don't you think? It wasn't it was ongoing.
I was there, and I had people on my show back then with hands up, don't shoot. And I remember the assassination of the Dallas PD. Donald Trump was elected, specifically his first term, because of how disruptive Black Lives Matter was and law and order. And I would say there was significantly more than under Barack Obama. But if you say they're the same, that's just where we disagree.
Well, wait, what are we debating about? I mean, in the George Floyd summer of love, maybe I'm wrong about the calendar. It was in 2020 when Trump was president, and it was the worst, arguably the worst BLM violence, I think, in the 21st century. I think that was worse, actually, than Mike Brown or Trayvon Martin. And Trump was president, and he didn't intervene because he was told it'd be better for him. And now in 2025, there's no National Guard. He chickened out on that. He chickens out on all that stuff. He was going to send him to Chicago, going to send him to every major city. Never happened. Even here. You know, they're doing the deportations in Broadview here in Illinois. They brought in like 400 National Guard, and ICE is still getting chased. And they got boxed in by a bunch of different protesters, one with a semi-automatic rifle. There's no law and order. Irina Zarutska died under Trump. The crime in New York under Trump. The crime in Chicago under Trump. It's a failure. And we're 10 years in. And so you say, what is it going to take? Because we elected him once,
Can I ask you something, though, just because this is the point I'd like to address when you say Irina Zarutska, and obviously we've covered that, and I think we're in agreement when you look at the judge and you look at the man who was released, I believe, 14 times, right, under the guise of equity, Black Lives Matter, precisely the kinds of policies that only exist because they have been supported by the radical left who run the entire Democrat Party, right? So, yeah, some of that happened under Trump's watch, and I agree. He's definitely far from perfect, and I think he's failed in a lot of ways. But who has been orchestrating? You talk about these constructionists, right? They want that, and people like Ro Khanna, people who you talk about in your coalition, it's their raison d'etre. So why hopscotch the voters who would not vote for that coalition precisely for the reasons we're discussing? Because they're against all of it, because Trump hasn't done enough to fight. I mean, COVID happened under Trump too. Huge mistakes. Fauci, awful. But I certainly think that 20 million illegal aliens in 4 years is worse than a reduction of 90-something%. I certainly think that the people who orchestrated Black Lives Matter and the people who ran those cities and the people who have blocked ICE from doing anything is worse than the guy sending in ICE with any effort at all.
But let's talk about even that. Why do we get all these people from Venezuela? Because Trump hired John Bolton to destroy Venezuela's economy, and then on his last day in office gave Venezuela temporary protected status. That was one of his last acts as president, and that means they can't be deported. And then you got 6 million Venezuelans in an exodus, and how many of them ended up here? And by the way, Trump ran in 2016 saying, we're going to build the wall and we're going to solve immigration. It didn't happen. There's no wall. He didn't solve it. What he did was executive orders, which Biden immediately overturned when he took power and then brought in 10 million. Okay, so Trump gets elected again. What does Trump do? You're right. He did secure the border. That's true. But we're 10 million deep. That's a little too late. He promised mass deportations. We've had maybe 300,000 deportations this year. Is that going to go up during the midterm elections? Is that going to go up when everybody's running in the primary in 27? I don't see it happening. And either way, it hasn't happened. So this is my frustration where I'm like, I was with you in the first term. As in the first term, when I was in college, I was like, yeah, like vote for Trump, never coming down. If he falls short, we'll go on Twitter and tell him to try better. But 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, Republicans have called for our vote all these times and things are not getting better like at all. And that's sort of the frustration where I start to say, let's turn the table around. And I'm not hopscotching over the voters. I want all the right-wing voters. What I want to hopscotch is the donors. I want to hopscotch the party, which is the RNC, which is, Little Tech, Silicon Valley, which is the Israel lobby, which is Wall Street, because they're driving the stuff. Like the reason that Trump is not really what he delivers, or what he promises is because, if you were to deport all these illegal aliens, it's going to be bad for big agriculture, Wall Street, inflation might tick up. And so
Marjorie Taylor Greene's really construction company.
That's right. Yeah, 100%. And that's why I want to bypass.
Okay, so bypass. So, and nobody is saying that President Trump is perfect. And I'm not a micro-political guy, a cultural guy largely. And I think there's been a major shift culturally. I mean, half of all gay characters are going to be going away, and GLAAD is lamenting that. I don't know how much more happy I can.
Oh, well, that explains a lot then. What do you mean you're not a micro-political guy? Then that means you're not a political guy. Your feeling is that things have changed. Nick just rattled off. These aren't even that micro if you're an influencer. Nick's rattled off all these things that he has a contentious with. He's has a problem with Trump, and Steven Crowder doesn't disagree with any of them. It reminds me of Tucker. His response is, "I'm not a micro politics guy." What?
I think that the replatforming is a big thing. Right? I mean, as someone who's been also debanked, demonetized through PayPal, Shopify, all that, very similar to you. The fact
very similar to Nick. Nick's not even on YouTube right now.
That you're able to.
I'm streaming you on YouTube right now. What are you talking about? That's not similar.
Sit here now and have this conversation. I mean, it took a lot of work from coalition people like me, turning down a $50 million contract. And migrating the world's biggest conservative, right-leaning nationalist YouTube channel over to Rumble so that you're able to do that. That's a win, right? And you could look at that like a light switch. Deplatformed, including the president himself, replatformed. To me, that's probably the biggest thing. The fact that you are able to sit here and talk when you weren't.
But I got replatformed under Biden. I got my Twitter account back in May 24. Musk bought Twitter in 2022. Right. And Rumble really started to grow after Trump got banned in 21. That's when all the little tech money jumped in because they said, we're going to do True Social, Trump Media Group, Rumble, these things. So, now that Trump is back in office, there's might be more censorship. Like you have people
but Elon Musk put you back specifically. He bought that to balance the powers that be. I mean, there was a point in time.
But it wasn't Trump.
But you're trying to give credit to Trump, Stephen, and it shouldn't go to Trump.
But that's the reason for it, right? There's no world in which you're replatformed unless Donald Trump is running again and someone like Elon Musk sees an already existing populist movement. That is important. And right now, this will actually be clips on YouTube. That could never have happened. I mean, I was literally deplatformed for having Carrie Lake on. in a midterm. That's why we couldn't stream the elections. So to say that, well, that's because of Biden, are you giving Biden credit for Elon Musk buying X and bringing you back? Because I think that you got to give some credit here if you want to build a coalition. Can you build a coalition with the people going, hey, we are really anti-censorship? And
no, Nick isn't on YouTube. Donald Trump promised the digital Bill of Rights, and his attorney general is talking about hate speech. A coalition with who?
Really hesitant to get back in bed with the party that pushed for all of it. Because there are other people, not as popular as you, who've also been deplatformed and replatformed as a result.
No, I'm not giving Biden credit. All I'm saying is you attribute that to Trump or for Republicans being in power. All I'm saying is one's got nothing to do with the other. And actually, it was a response. Musk buying Twitter was a reaction to the overreach of the Democrats because they banned the president from Twitter. And I would add to that also, censorship is a big problem. I don't think we're in the clear with Rumble or Twitter. There's going to be a lot of regulatory. Either. Yeah. And what is Trump doing to solidify this free speech beachhead that you have built, that Elon has built? Nothing. Was that in the big, beautiful bill? Is the FCC getting on top of that? They flirted with doing that in 2020 when they said they were going to do section, what is it, 270 or 280
section
or whatever?
230.
They talked about doing that. They never did it. And so that's my problem where, and I'm with you, like,
well, no, can I just pause that? Because that's kind of in my realm of expertise, because this is something where I've been here this entire time.
Totally.
Right? And not to take credit, but certainly a pioneer in being demonetized and hiring.
You can't say that to Nick Fuentes. No one's been more banned than him. I don't even understand why he's bringing that up.
My biggest expense, especially coming up, was legal outside of payroll because I saw this type of censorship coming. I'm the only one who was named in the Facebook files by name. That's how I met my lawyer. The Twitter files, and Susan Wojcicki and Congress women. I don't know if there were any men. I know there were a few women. I think Pelosi and what's her name, the Hirono, the lady from Hawaii who always talks about sex, asking for me to be. Have you ever had sexual relations with someone? That's how she opens every single hearing. It's like, how horny are you, lady? So that is something that I've lived through, and I think you're maybe discounting how bad it can get. And 230 is important, right? I've issued a prescription on how to fix that. I'm disappointed.
What the fuck is he talking about? He's telling Nick Fuentes he doesn't understand how bad it can get? What is going on?
There hasn't been something fully solidified, but I would say there's a reason you're back. There's a reason that people are not afraid to speak out. And people like Trump, people who are more populist, the populists who exist on the right, they listen to their base. And I think it's good that you're pushing him. But what would be enough? In other words, would there be a threshold enough so that you don't just sort of, elope with the Ro Khannas and the Bernie bros of the world?
That's what Groper War II was about. He already told you what it was. I have a clear list of demands I expect from you. If you don't do them, then I will go against you. It's not complicated.
It's not about eloping. And I would say, what does enough look like? I would know it when I saw it. It would be not like bombing Iran is like a punchline for what Israel wants. That's pretty bad. I would say that not mass deporting people. You don't need to deport 10 million in 1 year, but 1 million per year. And how about anything? And literally anything on free speech. Ron DeSantis had some legislation and Texas had some legislation about free speech. Could we get something like that, regulatory or legislative? Mm-hmm. I just look across the board and maybe this addresses the heart of the matter. I sort of look at Trump and I say, I see what you have done for them. Can you bless us in the same way? Because they will move heaven and earth to lower the corporate tax rate. They will move heaven and earth to give $1 trillion for AI. And they will give Saudi Arabia, non-NATO major defense ally. They'll give Qatar security guarantee. They'll bomb Iran for Israel. They'll bomb Yemen for Israel. What will you do for us? A middle class tax cut? Will you give us law and order, National Guard, mass deportation? Like, how about pick one, something? So, maybe we just differ an approach because I think you share these frustrations, but you're saying, let's work with them. Let's not burn it all down. And you look at me as someone that's saying, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I get where you're coming from, but
is that a wrong assessment? Because and first off, I do want to correct because it does matter. 2 million are gone. A lot of people self-deported, which to me is like a magic trick.
Come on, bro.
Yep, 2 million are gone. And
that's fake.
And and a 94%. Okay, well, I'll make sure the references are available. And if people disagree, they can check that out. But there's a lot of self-deportation going on. Also, a 93 to 99% reduction. So if 1 million, 2 million are gone, I would argue.
We're talking about deportation, and I'm out on deportation, but just talking about this topic, deportation separate from self-deportation. I mean, don't bake those numbers in. Come on, bro. That's lame.
Number is 2 million, and you reduce it. I don't think that's marginal, and I think that's probably the biggest issue if you want to preserve a country. Is it enough? Is it ideal? No, but it's better than another 15 million, and the people who brought in 15 million are the people you are suggesting to be part of a coalition after it's burned down. So what's the prescription? What does it look like when you say throw the baby out with the bathwater? What does it look like? You get Trump out, you get 4 years of Kamala, right? If you had your way, 4 more years of Newsom. What does it look like? I'm asking you for the prescription, because I'll tell you, mine is primaries. Mine is having people who listen to their base. Mine is making sure that we can make incremental change. The biggest disappointments would be H-1Bs for sure. The big 600,000 Chinese students, huge disappointment. Section 230, right? I have prescription for all of those. What is yours? What does that look like? Revolution or coalition, and then burn it down, throw the baby out with the bathwater. The alternative is, that's where I think I'm missing you.
Here's my prescription. I just think that we need the young people to climb the ladder. I want to march through the institutions, get them in the college Republicans, to the campaigns, to the congressional offices, the think tanks. I think that we need to engage in primaries. In 2026, I'm going to be very active, and we're going to tell everybody who's America first and who isn't, and who to vote for. And I think the people that are not America first, I think they should lose their elections. In 2028...
So do I.
Yeah, okay. So then, we agree on that. In 28, I think we should back a presidential candidate who is going to basically emulate what Trump did in 16, which is anti-corruption, America first, close the borders. And if that person can make inroads with the left, I think that's an interesting idea, because maybe the area of disagreement is there are a lot of people in our right-wing coalition who are kind of part of the problem. I would say there are, like, for example, when Trump bombed Iran, you had like 70% of Republicans supporting that. That's a load of crap. Yeah. And you have a lot of Republicans.
I'm okay with it.
I know you are. And I've heard your argument. We could have that one out. But I think that's a huge problem. And I think that there's a lot of people that, they're going to vote for Trump literally no matter what. And what that does is it creates moral hazard, because then
I'm okay with the Iran bombing. Can you, let's talk about that. Walk me through that one.
Republicans know that they can come in, they can screw us forever. And I guess the question is, for me, my prescription is I want results now. If you don't give them to us, we don't care. We will burn it down. And I'm being the unreasonable person in the room. I feel like you, because you're being reasonable, you are allowing the establishment to get away with everything. And they'll always be stringing you along, telling you, oh, well, it's better than the alternative. Well, in the next 2 years, we're going to get it. 2 million, that's fake. That's from the community survey. They polled 65,000 people. There's a response bias. It's not happening. And you say, well, it's better than nothing. It almost isn't, because what happens? We get a Democrat in 4 years anyway.
Hold on a second. I'm not saying it's better than nothing. I'm saying that it's better than what you suggested was a superior alternative, Kamala Harris. That's the standard that we do need to use here, because you said Kamala Harris would be a better choice. I'm not saying it's better than nothing, good enough. I mean, you're talking to Dan Crenshaw. We'll never be back on this show because I called him to task on the TAPS Act. I was like, well, how is this not red flag laws? No.
How long are we going to stay on the lesser of two evils argument, which I do not agree with, but why? We are grown-ass men, and we're still talking about the lesser of two evils in 2025. That's why you're losing young people. Nobody wants to hear that argument anymore. Nobody cares about the lesser. Well, they're both bad, or they're both not doing what we want them to, but Kamala Harris is worse. No, I don't agree with that, number one. Number two, they're both bad. So what's your point?
No, there's no one who likes those in positions of authority who betray their base. And I think that base, by the way, is a pretty big coalition. It includes conservative. It's bigger than ever with Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't really a classical conservative. I think it's better than Kamala Harris. And I can't think of anyone less America first than who you suggested, Ro Khanna. That's why I bring it up. That's why I bring it up.
You're getting hung up on that.
Okay, so any member of the Democrat Party. I can't think of anyone less America first than the current Democrat Party. Republicans are flawed. I believe that, go through it, Warren, Kamala Harris, who you said would be a better choice, Gavin Newsom, Whitmer. I believe they fundamentally hate everything about America. I can't name one thing.
I'm not talking, Ro Khanna, I'm not talking about him specifically. And like I said,
Okay.
I'm not even talking about Thomas Massey. I'm using them as an example, as a model. Well, as a model, because as sort of a proof of concept, because you have a Republican and a Democrat who, by the way, I don't even agree with them on most things. Like, I criticize Thomas Massey a lot. But it's an example of bipartisanship on a populist issue, an anti-elite issue that everybody supports. And who is against it? The Republican establishment, Trump, Johnson. And I'm saying that's an example of cooperation where the right can maybe lean into these issues that, you know, maybe they're nonpartisan issues and rally everybody against the establishment in our own party. And it's just, to me, that's always the disconnect, is you want to talk about Kamala Harris and Ro Khanna. And I'm saying, let's imagine a different scenario.
No, I'm not. I don't want to talk about them. You brought them up and repeatedly so.
You brought them up.
I brought up you. Come on, let's be fair. I disagree with you. I understand your approach, though, too. I understand your approach because I feel that way, like I said, about the conservative guard in media. In other words, we'd be pretty much on the same page. Anyone in conservative media, and we've seen it where they are gatekeepers, but there's a mechanism to fix that. And we've seen that change. And Rumble is a big part of that. And I agree with you. More needs to be done about Section 230. But I brought them up because you use those examples. And as someone who believes that they fundamentally disdain America, Kamala Harris. To be fair, she's really dumb, so she may not actually know what she believes or thinks. But I do believe like a Whitmer hates America. I do believe that a socialist like Bernie does, and I know people say he's a populist, but I don't go along with that. But I understand your point. Let's just chalk that up to a disagreement. There are some other areas if we want to go through where we probably agree, probably disagree, because I think you presented it pretty well. I just think we disagree on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So some of the positions that you've presented, for me, where I think we might disagree, but you could clarify, have given me pause. Second Amendment. That's a big one to me, a fundamental one, because I come from a country, I would also say socialized healthcare, because I've put several family members 6 feet under who would have lived in the United States, being raised in Quebec. It's awful. But the Second Amendment, considering the amount of threats, and we've talked about this, everyone has since Charlie Kirk, right? People just see the one that got through. I would imagine that you live under perpetual threat and need extra forms of security. I probably have that right.
Yes.
Yeah. And so for me, Second Amendment is pivotal. And I do see some rhetoric, not just from you, but from some people who sort of dismissive that is disconcerting. I'd like to roll a clip on this and then give you the floor to clarify, because we probably actually agree more than we disagree.
Sure. There's this question of our government has no efficacy and it's not responsive to the needs or the wants of the people. So it's not really a democracy and it also isn't working. So what do you do in that situation? Well, people start to say, and this is, you know, as you know, this is the natural evolution of things. The people cry out for a tyrant. The people cry out for a dictator. Give us change, give us reform. And I certainly feel that. I think that's compelling. I'm a little skeptical of it as time goes on, because as I get older and more mature, I think we maybe take for granted the institutions that we've built up. And maybe I've become ironically more conservative in my disposition and saying, like, maybe let's not race ahead of ourselves and get rid of things which have been around for hundreds of years. I would argue the constitutional system is already impaired because it's being abused by all the other organs of government. You know, even the Supreme Court voted 8-1 that said these injunctions are out of control. And you've got these like procedural things in the Senate, the filibuster. The president can't fire as many people as he'd like to fire without all this oversight. It's like, you know, we do need an executive organ of government. So I would say that we should start with a more powerful president. And I would not be opposed to something like a king that sits over the presidency. I think that maybe they didn't get it wrong, but I think maybe we've outgrown a lot of those considerations. I'll even go as far as to say something like the Second Amendment. I mean, you know, and maybe I'd get criticized for this, but I'm just free thinking here. ideally, you would want a society that is so orderly. Do you really want people running around with guns all the time? I mean, I know the argument about, and I am pro Second Amendment, I have guns, but something like that, it's like that is a clear instance where the left kind of makes a point about how we've outgrown some of the things that are in there. I'm going to get a lot of shit for saying that, but I just think that's true. In like a modern city, should everybody be packing heat like that? I mean, ideally, you'd have so much public order, it wouldn't be necessary.
Okay, so first, let me just be really clear on my position. I do like a place where people are running around with guns all the time because I've been a place where they haven't, Canada, and it's a nation of pussies. Also, I will tell you this. On this topic, I have seen the video where the police, I don't think police showed up at your house. One of my producers here.
Yeah, we're going to have to unpack that Nick Fuentes take there. I am surprised to hear that, and that one's going to go viral. So I trust Nick. I want to hear him expand on that, but that's a tough position to defend.
Who's a lawyer, said people should watch that as textbook on how to deal with police. And he's not Jewish. He's Greek. One of the very rare Greek lawyers. He's not very good.
I like him.
Yeah, he's not very good. So I wouldn't hire him in a divorce. She'll get everything. But I do want to give you, in other words, I want to let people know that this is not a position taken from someone who has not been under threat. But I will say this, what I heard there and in watching you, concerning to me. Because what I see communicated is in your ideal utopia, to use the word, would involve a much stronger state with much more executive power. And I agree on the executive authority, but the end game, a much stronger state and much softer civilian arms, softer Second Amendment rights. And it sounds a lot to me like the left saying, well, it was for muskets and we can just revise it. Explain if that's a mischaracterization. How do we know when we decide, and how do we decide we probably don't want people running around with guns anymore?
Well, I'm not in favor of gun control in America. I just don't even think that's practical. It's 400, 500 million guns or something. I don't think it's possible to control guns here. It's kind of gotten away.
Yeah, but that's not the point. I wouldn't even bring up practical or not. It's fundamentally un-American to try to control it.
I will just say it really comes from a feeling. I don't really have a fleshed out, like, hot take on it, but I do think about a modern city like New York or DC or LA and think, where do we draw the line? I know in Texas, for example, you have open carry, and I've done it. I was down in Texas with John Doyle actually years ago before we became enemies. And we were walking around with guns in our back pocket in the gas station. And I'm thinking, I actually don't know that I want to live in a city where people are.
I wonder if my impression on this is going to be the biggest part of the interview, even though it's great. This is great too. I haven't heard Nick on 2A in recently. I think what we're seeing here is, my impression is Nick's feeling like if the government was run properly, we should have the right to, but we shouldn't feel the need to. I think that's where I'm getting from Nick here. Back to Gladys Crowder, Nick Fuentes, probably wrapping up. Man, I actually have to go in a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to make it through the whole thing.
Literally walking around with guns hanging out of their pants. I guess I already do live in one. I live in Chicago. They don't do it legally.
Well, I was going to say that might just be a Chicago thing because everyone in this studio is strapped right now, and I love it. Like you're almost making me erect in your description.
I caught myself. I'm like, oh wait, that sounds like the South Side. It sounds like Inglewood actually. But so I guess I'm in favor of like concealed carry. We should be able to own guns. I just, maybe it's a cultural thing because I did grow up in the Midwest, and my parents actually trained people in how to use firearms, but we're not like a gun nut family. Forgive me if that's a pejorative statement, but we're not enthusiasts. And so there's something to me about it that I just feel like at a certain point it becomes less safe more than more safe. So, but like I said, I don't really have a fleshed out take. I'm ideologically in favor of the Second Amendment. I do support it. I don't have any prescriptive gun control measures. I just think there's a limit to it, and I get a little uncomfortable by some of it sometimes.
Okay, well, I think that's a fair answer if it's just sort of a feeling thing. I think that in combination, hopefully you can understand where it's prescriptive as far as a stronger state or theocracy or I feel like I know I've heard you use the word dictatorship. It could be, again, tongue-in-cheek with softer Second Amendment rights. That's a huge concern to me. But I think that's a fair answer. If you don't actually have a prescription for it, all right, I would ask that you not create any kind of a coalition with someone who would take any guns away, because I have them hanging out of my pockets all the time. As a matter of fact, I've created new pockets for my guns.
I keep forgetting you're Canadian. That seems like a big hang, maybe because you come from a country without it, but I
am American. I was raised in the land of pussies. So I was born in Detroit and was raised in the land of the spineless from 3 to 18.
Trans-American, huh?
No.
You identify as American, huh? No,
yeah. Well, I've actually tried to publicly denounce my Canadian citizenship many times, and I don't know how to. I've just said it on air, like I denounce it. I'm so ashamed of that. And my mom, who was French Canadian, I mean, gosh, many decades ago, is embarrassed by it. So I'm not Canadian. I'm never running for office. I just don't want people to actually think I'm Canadian, because that would be awful.
Okay, sure thing. Well, I mean, me, as far as just one last.
We agree.
Look,
Canadians are awful. We have to agree. They're the worst.
But they're your people, Steve. They're your
not
people.
Oh, son of a bitch. All right. I hate that country. It is awful. It's also, by the way, probably why I'm much more in favor of a two-party system, because I come from where I was raised, a parliamentary system. And when I had it explained to me, I said, so someone can become the leader of this country with like 28% of the vote. How is this not retarded? And it doesn't work very well either. It doesn't mean that either is perfect, but Second Amendment is a really big thing. But I also understand too, because I was under that impression coming from a place where not a lot of people had guns. But I will tell you this: my prescription is there is no limit. You would probably consider me an extremist on that, and almost all mass shootings take place in gun-free zones. The lowest number you'll find is 94%. Increased gun laws do not at all correlate with decreased crime. Matter of fact, quite often the opposite. And guns save far more lives each year than they take. So that's one of those, if you're a pragmatist, which I know you've said, guns, homicides each year. And this is my soapbox, and I'll get off just since I know you said you're not convinced either way. There'll be anywhere from 15 to 20-something thousand each year homicides. Defensive uses, low end, 500,000 to 3 million. And that's a low count, because so many defensive uses of firearms, like you mentioned, just someone showing it, right? They don't need to be fired. They save far more lives than they take. And that's one where I say, I want an armed society, because I know what it looks like where they're not. And in Canada, Montreal, where I was raised, they pretty much invented the school shooting. We had École Polytechnique, Concordia. I had friends at Boston College where there was a guy who roamed the Maritimes with like a shotgun and shot multiple people for days, and no one could do shit. That's how bad it is. So that's me making a pitch, since you seem like you're reasonably open to it.
Well, I agree with all that. I guess the feeling comes from, there's this sense in American conservatism of like, well, they can't take the guns. And I feel like there's a sense that guns are going to protect us from tyranny, and I feel like they haven't. I feel like, especially someone like myself, the government can touch you. The government can do what they want to you. The government took my money, put me on a no-fly list, and if they wanted to get me, they could get me. Right. And so I
they have gotten you. They have gotten you.
Yeah.
And they've gotten me too. Thank God we're here. But no, and my heart goes out to you. I mean, being subpoenaed by the ATF and being threatened to be investigated by the FBI, along with the Nashville police, they can. But then apply that to society at large, and you end up like Australia with COVID camps.
And I'm not against all guns. I just think that conservatives need to think beyond that issue, because they tend to consider that the last line of defense. I feel like if you lose everything else, the guns won't protect you either. That's why I'm more proactive. Like, we really need to do other things. And that's why the Second Amendment's less of a concern to me. Yeah,
and I understand that. I would just say, if you're not pretty steadfast on that, you will lose everything else. Historically, there's no exception. And that's why it's so important to me. But I think we're pretty close on that. And maybe if ever you're around, I can take you shooting. What about this? I have a little gun right here. I had to take it out because when I sit down, it digs into my gut fat and leaves a gun imprint. That's a cute little gun, right? That doesn't intimidate you. Look at this tiny little thing. That's a good gun. It's a little Kel-Tec. It's if you come down, we can shoot it sometime. And they won't even know about it in Chicago. Though don't carry illegally. Okay, so that's a big issue for me. I would say the biggest issue, since you can go back when I was a teenager as well, we share that in common. Second Amendment, First Amendment. Again, socialized healthcare, very important to me just because of the results. I understand where you're coming from, saying that our system is broken. I just have seen how much more broken it can be. Immigration, I think, is probably the biggest issue of our time, both legal and illegal. I think we agree, maybe different methods, if that's fair. But I am for you. I don't want Texas to look like India. We have a segment, Eye on India, where it's pretty much just human beings throwing shit. It's a terrible, terrible place. And I don't believe that they're smarter. I don't believe that we should be replacing Americans. So I think we're on board there. But freedom of speech, big thing for me. The fact that we're able to have this conversation and the fact that I will take so much crap for even having it. I hope that you can appreciate it, and I would do it again. That's a big one. Now, I want to play a clip for you that The Hill took, and they edited some stuff in this clip. I'm sure you're aware. And then towards the end of this, for fun, I want to go through some rapid fire viral clips that have no context so that you can address them, because these are the ones that people see of you sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
So this is the one from The Hill that they ran regarding, I guess you would say freedom of speech, but seems pretty severe. And then I would like to roll, not the whole 2-hour show, but a longer clip so that people can see what they cut out, and then we can talk about it. Is that fair?
Sure, yeah.
Here's the Hill clip with, I think the two hosts who presented it, I think one of them is gay or just acts like it.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. And I'm far more concerned about that than I am about even non-white people or mass migration. These people that are communing with demons and engaging in this sort of witchcraft and stuff, and these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. This is God's country. This is Jesus's country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
Now, for those watching, that is what The Hill ran, right? And of course, people were horrified. They did edit out a very particular portion of it, which I think is relevant. So forgive me if you need to take a sip of water. I want to play the longer version, and let's see if people can see what was edited out, and then give you the floor to explain it.
Sure. And it just makes me sick to my stomach. There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. And whenever I see that stuff, it just makes me want to proclaim louder and more firmly and more rigidly that it is nothing other than Jesus Christ. No pagan stuff, no false gods, no deities, no demons. It is Jesus Christ. And we need to start saying that name more. I feel like I haven't said his name enough on the show lately. But that is what breaks the spell. It's the name. It's the name Jesus. Talk about it. Say it. Pray to him. Talk about the sacrifice on the cross. That's the answer. Because so many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. And I'm far more concerned about that than I am about even non-white people or mass migration. These people that are communing with demons and engaging in this sort of witchcraft and stuff, and these people that are suppressing the name Christ and suppressing Christianity, they must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. I'm not calling for political violence, but that cannot have any quarter in our society. And we need to put up a crucifix in every home, in every room, in every school, and every government office to signal Christ's reign over our country. Not that God needs it, but it must be outwardly expressed from the interior that this is God's country. This is Jesus's country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country. So, anyway, I know the guy earlier said, can you be agnostic and be America first? I'm amending my answer. No, you must be a Christian. And you must submit to Christianity.
Okay. So, and I know it feels tedious, but this is the game that the media plays. I noticed they cut out the part where you said you were not calling for political violence, which I think is an indictment on the Hill. But I would also ask, you say that, but you also talk about executing people. So if you're not advocating political violence as it relates to putting people to death, how would you do it?
Well, that was a few years ago, and I would say that I'm not really in favor of the death penalty at all anymore. But I remember that monologue well because I saw a lot of this satanic occult stuff. I'm talking about like Pizzagate stuff. Like, we have to acknowledge there are a lot of people in the elite that are straight up devil worshipers. I firmly believe in this like eyes wide shut kind of thing that does happen. I don't think it's necessarily a grand conspiracy, but
no, there's spiritual warfare for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of those types of people out there, especially in like Hollywood. I saw it up close and personal when I was with Ye, and I just hate that stuff so much.
Wait a second. I want to give you the answer, but what do you mean you saw it up close? Were you at an eyes wide shut party with Ye?
No, I wasn't at a party, but you know, being with him, you see, like with Balenciaga, they did that at Balenciaga.
Okay, all right.
They had that like S&M teddy bear, and there's things like that. It's like a wink and a nod to basically just evil, just straight up evil. And so no, that they always do this. I do a show every night, as you know, and you sometimes get whipped up and you say something like that. So I don't know that I have a policy of like when I get in charge, I'm going to give everyone the death penalty. But suffice to say, the people that are involved in that kind of stuff, they can't be negotiated with. It's not going to be a power sharing agreement with people that worship Moloch and Baal and the Epsteins and who is it, the Podestas. Like those people are going to have to be like imprisoned or something like that, because that stuff just makes me sick to my stomach. So that was the gist, but it's not like my program is, so we're going to become president, that we're going to kill a bunch. I'm not in favor of the death penalty even at all, really.
Okay. So even if let's say, a perfect world coalition, you reach that point, the Nick Fuentes government, you wouldn't be executing people for not being Christian.
No. And that's not what that was about. I mean, even in that clip, I'm talking specifically about the occult, which I hate.
Okay. But you wouldn't execute people for worshiping false gods either. You wouldn't execute people at all.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
All right. Yeah. Because for me, I mean, I just go, oh, well, it's interesting they cut out the I'm not advocating political violence, but then I still come back to I did say execute, so I do want to ask him about that.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate statement, but it's one of those things. If I could take it back, I would. But that occult, I don't know about you, but when I see that kind of stuff, like it pisses me off. When I see like Order of Nine Angles and stuff like that,
yeah,
on like in my bones, I hate it.
Yeah, I hate evil wherever it may be, and I do believe, this is my belief, that the progressive left is a death cult. That's the only common denominator that I see. If you look at the abortion policy, if you look at the mutilation of children, if you look at, even it's whenever you see an LGBTQ flag next to a country that's represented by Hamas. Now, I'm not saying all Palestinian people. I'm saying those two can't be reconciled, where you go, how do they have this? How do they have these? Well, the only commonality is that they can't stand the United States. And it's a death cult. And I think what does bother me a little more sometimes is I see a lot of immature Christians. And I know you've talked about this as a Catholic who obviously has much more of an understanding of your theology, or maybe sometime we can have a conversation about that. We agree, disagree. But I see a lot of young Christians who come in and they think that everything is like satanic, like a proactive satanic worship. I'm going, well, hold on. The biggest threat is making yourself God. Like abortion is just sacrifice at the altar of self. Are there people involved in the occult knowingly? Yeah, but there are far more people who succumb to temptation and evil and worship the devil without knowing it. And I think a lot of people kind of sound nuts and unreasonable because they don't understand theology sometimes. Yeah, no, and I agree with that. To me, it's completely irredeemable when
when it's explicit. Because like you say, there are a lot of people that do it unknowingly, and maybe it's guided by the best intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. It might be out of empathy or, some kind of ideology. And I agree with you, but to me, it's like that explicit occult stuff. It's, that to me is irredeemable. I mean, it's obviously, whereas Christians, we don't believe it's actually irredeemable, but to me, like I said in the clip, there can be no quarter for that, especially in the halls of power. As far as the left is concerned, I mean, you're right about that, but I don't hate it as much, actually.
The left?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I do.
The left is evil. I agree with you, but that other stuff is just on its next level.
No. Obviously, anyone who's like, doing a bloodletting devil worship ceremony is the worst. I'm just saying that I believe the left in general is an evil movement and ideology. And I mean, for proof, look to Canada. It's both evil and a nation of pussies. It's almost hard to make that happen, but somehow they pulled it off. And I also think the coalition that you see with the left. And big business. This is where you say donors, but I just mean corporatism, period. Like BlackRock. I mean, we had an investigation. People can go and watch. Funny enough, McKinsey Company was one where we got a lot of blowback. But BlackRock then threatening Rumble if they don't remove us to take legal action. And I don't even think it was a Jewish lawyer, which is kind of funny, just as an aside. So I think that's why it didn't go anywhere. It wasn't very good. Say what we want about it. They tend to be good as lawyers. That is a really unholy coalition and leads to a lot of our problems with big tech and censorship. I will say this. I find that I agree with you on a lot. And I know you have a lot of time. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I don't know if you saw Coleman Hughes just released this whole thing on you last night. Did you see that? I did. Yeah. And it seems to me when I saw that they have some sights set on Rumble because they started bringing Rumble Nick. They said it was said like 20 times. And of course, I believe Coleman Hughes works under Barry Weiss and CBS, and they spend a lot of money on YouTube, would have a vested interest in alternative platforms going away. So that kind of raised an eyebrow, and I want to look into it more. But he did say that you, Nick, you'll give one face to the audience on Rumble, and then sometimes a different face when you go on podcasts and moderate quite a bit. Do you think you've been doing that here? Because I know you'll say, well, I could take that back, or do you think it's this is fair and it's consistent?
I think I'm being fair. Okay. They've been saying this about me for 10 years, where they say you're presenting a more normie-friendly face. I would just say I'm a three-dimensional human being, and when you watch a show, it's a performance, and it's me, as you know, well, maybe because you got other people, but for me, it's like I'm in a room by myself, and when I do a show, I'm just talking to myself, and when I'm talking to myself, you know how it is, you get whipped up, and you make jokes or use hyperbole, you're being rhetorical, that tends to happen. Then when you're in a serious conversation where they say, do you want to kill everybody? You're like, no, like here I was joking, or here I meant this. But no, I think that's a dishonest characterization of it. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you. You've said one time, I think you were giving an interview. It was funny. You said sometimes jokes don't land, and you just were straightforward about it. I know that all too well. Believe me, a crowd full of drunks in Schenectady will let you know when you're 19. Let me ask you, what in your mind when you're doing it? Like, what's the perfect joke?
I don't know for me, it's if it makes me laugh.
Yeah,
I mostly do my show for my own sense of humor. Like the things that I say, it's because I think they're funny, and I literally can't help but I have to say it, and I make myself laugh. And so to me, the best jokes are the ones that I laugh out loud if I watch the clip.
Okay. And do you ever write a joke, or do you ever think of a perfect structure? Or this is just sort of, you mean these are sort of joking statements?
I don't write jokes. It's all extemporaneous. Mm-hmm. So if I think of something funny, just like a funny scenario or a bit, I have to perform and I have to act it out. And sometimes the edgier, let's be honest, if it's edgy, it's funny.
Right.
That's in my opinion. I mean, I've always had an edgy sense of humor. If it's a little offensive, it's a little bit sharp. Or if the audience doesn't like it, sometimes I like it more if half the audience gets really mad about it.
Yeah.
That's rage bait, know? So
I understand. That's actually the only reason I have people in the room, because I talk to myself all the time. So it's just so people don't think I'm crazy. Because I don't know about you, most of my ideas usually come to me in the shower or driving. And I think it's that sensory deprivation, right? You ever drive and you go, wait, where was I for an hour? and you have a bunch of things you have to pull over and write down.
Yeah, it's almost like if you're doing something, it like frees a different part of your mind, you know? Because if you're not doing anything, if you're idle, you're a little too in your head. So that's how it works.
Yeah, I think Norm Macdonald said once, he said the perfect joke is where the punchline is the exact same as the setup. And he had a joke about Julia Roberts marrying Lyle Lovett, and the punchline was just when they realized that Julia Roberts had married Lyle Lovett. Like, that was just the punchline. But to me, I think in topical stuff, because I've caught a lot of flack for jokes. And I believe at one point, Matt Walsh even joined, like a bunch of conservatives joined and gave me crap for a tweet. And this is why I say I feel compelled to defend when I go, well, hold on. Even if it's not a joke, it's a statement made in jest. You know, I'm using the term broadly. The one I wrote was, I said, and it was in response to Lena Dunham back then, if an angry feminist is raped in a forest, but no one there to hear it, is she still heinously unattractive? And people got so mad, and conservatives saying, we have to be better than this. I was like, that's a solid bit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, and then Anna Kasparian, who's been welcomed into the fold with open arms. I don't know why. I was called a garbage person. One of my favorite jokes that I ever wrote, and a lot of it is not necessarily written, was, remember Christine Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh? That was a big thing.
Yeah.
And it was something like the setup was like she accused Kavanaugh of attempted rape in a letter to Dianne Feinstein. And I'm paraphrasing. And the letter that she gave to her psychologist contradicts the story that she gave to the New York Times. And that contradicts the story given to her attorney. And the attorney version contradicted with the story that she had given to the authorities, who are still, it should be noted, pursuing the distinct possibility of her being a, quote, dirty, lying whore. And Anna Kasparian goes, I'm better. That's a garbage person who would make that joke. It's just a fact. Christine Blasey Ford was a dirty, lying whore. There's not much more to it than that. Let me go. So on that vein, this is, and I want people to know, don't take this out of context. I want to run some clips completely out of context, the way they have been run as hit pieces on you, so that you can clarify. So this is going to seem really shitty, but I know that people have seen these, and I probably already know the answer, so we can have a bit of fun with it. Here's one that people might have seen. They use against you that the dating is gay thing.
If we're really being honest, never having a girlfriend, never having sex with a woman, really makes you more heterosexual. Because honestly, dating women is gay. Having sex with women is gay. And having sex with men is gay. And you know, it's all gay. And if you want to know the truth, the only really straight heterosexual position is to be an asexual incel.
Now, I have to treat this with the seriousness it deserves. Do you believe that having sex with a woman is gay? Because some could argue that intercourse with a woman is the most heterosexual thing that someone could do.
Well, you would think that by definition. But
yes.
At the same time, you know, it's the closeness with women. I sort of see women as like the abyss. And it's like the longer you stare into them, the more they stare back into you. And
that's
so you
an
find
experienced woman.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these like hypersexual men, they become more like women. They become a little more gay. So yeah, we have to acknowledge there's something very true there. Something very true.
Well, I think the reason people also use this, and it really bothers me. They go, "Oh, Nick is an incel." As I understand it, you have always said that you are going to be waiting until you're married. So they take something that's a virtue and use it against you, combined with, I think what you just said was in jest, and go, "Well, he's an incel who's gay."
Well, the incel thing is true. I mean, women hate me. Women can't stand me. I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9". Women think I shouldn't exist.
That doesn't matter.
They think I should be dead.
Yeah, I can see you right now. You've got big hands. No. You have notoriety right now, my friend. You just go do some live shows. They'll be throwing themselves at you, but still maintain that virtue. You know, you have to learn to swat them away. Don't stare into that abyss.
You're right.
But no, that's what they'll do. They'll go, "Oh, this is you're not. That's not true. You're not an incel. Not at this point. You choose. You're a choose cell."
A Volcel. Oh, I'm Rizless. I have no Riz, Steven.
Okay. All right. No,
and I won't do it. I won't do the playful banter. I won't.
You won't? All right. I got it. Well, I don't know what I've learned about drip. So neither one of us is wearing a whole lot of drip, but you seem to have a nice watch.
Thanks.
This is the other one that people have talked about. I think it's is this the one with Destiny? I don't know. I put these because they're each like a few seconds. So I'll just play it because people go, ask them about this, and then you can clarify. Again, I assume all of these are in jest. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up because then people are like, I can't believe you let him get away with it. All right, roll that one.
They want to get the Medal of Honor, the Congressional Medal of Freedom, because they went out with some average woman and had a couple of kids, and they live in some house where they're watching Disney Plus, and you go to the farmer's market. It's a revolutionary act. I don't think so, Buster. Like, we need to go at the center, and that requires real dedication, real sacrifice that, yes, might involve actually not having kids for some people. You know, does it ever cross people's mind that in a war, young men die? Is this any different? Is sacrificing a family life different than dying in a war for a political outcome? I don't think so.
And I'm sorry, that's the wrong clip I meant, but we can address that one too. The clip I wanted was of Destiny about him being based or something. But that one is one that some people obviously would say to bring up because us being replaced, and by the way, I'm not using the term replacement theory because just like nationalists, the left tries to coin that, that advice would maybe fly in the face of fixing the problem of us being replaced demographically.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. And I don't think the solution to demographic replacement is everybody that watches my show has kids. Because even if everybody watches my show has kids, it doesn't solve the problem. It's a political problem. Like, why is our fertility rate low? It's a policy problem. And it's a societal-wide problem. And so I don't like the idea. It's sort of like, you look at how society is, people go, oh, well, if you don't like the way your city is, go move somewhere else or go do something else or change it to
I know who you're talking about on that one.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of people that say that. And I think it ignores the reality of politics, which is that if we want to change society, we have to change politics. And a lot of people like to say, no, just be the change you want to see in the world. I don't believe in spontaneous action like that. I think that you do actually need people that are going to need to fight a very difficult battle. And some may have families and some might not, but they have to put the political cause first. And then you can change society by changing the capital. And so that I really don't like when people say, oh, well, if we all just had kids at the same time, it's like, okay, but who's listening to this? Like 10,000 people? The fertility rate is low globally, and so it's going to need to be addressed by the state.
Yeah, I think people need to do both. I was going in the silly direction, but not to go back to the serious direction. I think people need to do both, and even people who go to war can do both. And I think that you actually can see, it was Andrew Breitbart who I kind of came up under his tutelage because I was just a comedian and he had Big Hollywood back then before it was Breitbart trademark anything, and he said that everything was downstream from culture. I've heard people say both downstream and upstream. I'm not sure which is correct, but I would argue that's true. And a big reason that birth rates are low is because culturally we have been bombarded with that for a long time because the world is going to end and it's morally wrong, right? Population is a problem. Overpopulation. That's what we were told for a very long time. So it justified, it was this confluence of that along with the feminist movement and sexual liberation, the idea of taking control of that. And we really saw an anti-natalist country. So I do think culturally it's important. I agree with you. I don't just think be the change you want to seek. I think you need to have a plan and a prescription. I would include in that encouraging people to have families, especially native-born, not feather Indian, but native-born Americans.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
But I understand the point that you're making. That can't be the only thing. But I also don't want to take for granted that there's been some headway made on that, where you actually have a lot of young people now who are very pro-family and understand the necessity. Whereas when you and I mean, you're younger than me, not that much younger than me. When you were young and I was young, that wasn't considered a virtue or a duty at all. As a matter of fact, the opposite. So I've seen the pendulum swing, and I definitely want to continue that momentum.
Yeah, me too. No disagreement.
Okay, this is the one. It's not Destiny. It's something about the young milk that people run and go, you got to ask them about it. Okay.
Right when the milk is good, I want to start drinking the milk. Same thing goes with women. I don't want to turn 30 and find some 20-year-old, 29-year-old woman that I have something in common with, and it's like, hey, properly aged, like wine. Women don't age like wine, they age like milk.
Okay, so the last part, everyone says. The first part, people go like, You want that milk when they're young? I mean, we just did a whole segment on Rosh Hashanah where Indian men suck on their own mother's tits as part of a wedding ceremony, which is another reason that we should import none of them. But it was a joke in jest. People are saying that you actually, you want young women so you can suckle their milk.
Oh, well, no, they are the milk in the analogy. It's not about they age like milk. No, of course not. I think the age of consent should be like 25, honestly. It's like these 20-year-old children are out there getting married and having sex in college. I don't know how anybody's okay with this.
Yeah.
20 years old, that's a child. That's a literal child. And men are having sex with them. It makes me mad, honestly.
Well, now you've gone too far the other way. 25. Like if it's a 20-year-old and a 20-year-old and they get married, and Mary was pretty. She wouldn't meet that for like another 10 years. We wouldn't have Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but now with the with the seed oils and everything, it's different. So I think it should be way, way higher. It pisses me off. 20 years old, that's a literal kid. I can't believe you would even say that, to be honest.
What? Two 20-year-olds getting married?
That's a literal child, Stephen. How could she consent? She's 20?
Oh, okay. All right. You're being facetious.
I'm teasing.
I
thought we were being funny.
I didn't know. Well, yeah, I know, but you were just doing the opposite of it. And considering that people will take it seriously, I said, I don't want them to take that. And they're like, see, Nick is inconsistent. No.
I thought we were joking.
Yeah. No, that is one thing, too. Like, it's just older women who are jealous that men like younger women. So, yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's exactly right. How many 40-year-olds go like, well, you just want her because it's like, yeah, now do the guy's wallet. Shut up. And we have the same thing with... By the way, any questions you would like me to ask next week? I have Jillian Michaels on the show, which the funny thing is, I don't feel the need to disavow you because you've said like you're not conservative. I don't think we're in the same exact space. There's some overlap, but for the same reason I wouldn't need to disavow. To use Ro Khanna as an example. Ro Khanna and I are not of the same stripe politically. And so we can talk about it. But any questions for the lesbian personal trainer, Jillian Michaels, who says that you declare all women want or need to be raped?
You got to press her. You got to press her on letting me come on her show. I saw you tweet that. And I really appreciated, by the way, defending what I said about that topic. If I say defended what I said about rape, it's going to sound really bad. But I appreciate what you said because
no, I am a rape defender. I am a huge rape defender.
That's part of the overlap. Yeah, that's where we agree.
Provided the man is attractive, wealthy, and not a Somali crackhead. But you didn't mention it. And that was one where I just sort of, filled in. I'm like, well, I've never seen Nick say women need to be raped. I assume that you were discussing, again, 62% of women have rape fantasies. And that,
you were so real for that. That was so real for you to say that.
Well, it's so repeatable that someone, we've done study after study, if this is not an outlier. And what that means is a sexually dominant man. Women's erotic literature right now is far worse than male pornography. Neither one is good, to be clear. Have you seen this book with the centaur thing? That's the new trend?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's disgusting.
Yeah. It's like, look, even, as a teenager, I'm not going to lie and say I've never seen pornography. Of course, I've dabbled. We live in the 21st century. And it's terrible. We all fall short. But usually it's a naked man having sex with a naked lady. There's no centaur cock.
No centaurs. Yeah. Well, in 50 Shades of Grey, that was like 10 years ago.
I know. And
now it's advanced. Now it's like refined. Yeah, that's where that came from. And we're all going to pretend like we don't know what's going on there. Like they don't want to be choked now and everything like that.
Yeah.
So you were real for defense. No one wants to talk about it because it's uncomfortable, but it's true.
Well, because Christians will come down on you too. And that's the problem too, is if they're like, oh, you shouldn't talk about it. It's like, so what? So we're supposed to address and combat evil without addressing it. Every now and then a lady's a little like, hey, you choke. Come on, guys. We all know this. So just read their books. Look at if Fabio's on the cover, read the book, go 5 pages in, someone's getting raped. And, we could argue whether it's healthy or not. It depends if the movie.
I forgot. I double muted just because Mike has bad knees was like you talking to somebody. I was like, let me just make sure this is not going on air. But we're talking about centaurs and chokes. Let's keep it going back.
Strikes. Is there anything else that, we do have some chat from people. Would you like to take a few chats and also let people know where's the best place for folks to find you since you are no longer deplatformed?
Yeah, I'm on X, Nick J. Fuentes, and Rumble, Nick J. Fuentes. And yeah, let's do some chats for sure.
By the way, I think you and I agree too. Elon Musk done a lot of good things. I'm glad that he, X, potential antichrist. Do we want to take some?
It's a candidate.
It's there. Definitely on the H-1B stuff. That was one where I think there's a lot more overlap where I couldn't believe that I was seeing a lot of these AstroTurf people saying like, yeah, H-1Bs. That's one of those things. Huge disappointment with this administration. I cannot express it enough. And I do hope that the feedback mechanism that has seemed to work in the past with Donald Trump applies here because it's horribly ill-advised. Noodles, do you have some chats for Nick? And thanks again for taking the time.
I do. First chat from Court 070. Question for Nick. With as large of a ship that America is, how fast can we right the ship? Can it be done in 4 years?
It's a good question. No, I don't think it can be done in 4 years. And so in that way, I think maybe we agree on that. We need reasonable expectations. So I'm with you. I'm not one of these people that can never be satisfied. I'm not happy with it, like you said, even about H-1Bs, but no, the country can't be changed in 4 years. It's going to take 15.
Yeah. I would agree. It could be destroyed in 4 years. I would say that it's a lot easier to destroy than it is to build something. And that's why I think these conversations are important, no matter how much we disagree, except for people who call for the actual death. That's I say that's my standard when people go, because someone said, I can't believe you would have Nick on when Steven Crowder, you say that you would never have someone on who calls for the death of anyone of a political stripe, because Nick has called for the deaths of all Jews. I'm like, well, by the way, I don't fully agree with some of the things that you say about the Juifs, as we call them in French, but I've never heard you call for the death of all Jews. When I'm talking about people like Hassan Piker Destiny saying political violence against my opponent, that's a line, because I had an imam on my show who called for my death, and it got pretty dicey. I was like, I'm not going to do that again. That's my standard. All right, I think that's a fair question. Next chat.
All right, next chat from Ignatum. Do you consider Islam a major threat to the U.S.?
No, and I said this on Alex Jones the other day. I really don't. And I think that, don't get me wrong, I don't want America to be Islamized. I don't like Islam. I'm not pro-Islam. I'm a Catholic. But I think that politically, that is something that is trotted out whenever people start to scrutinize Israel too much, because it's certainly more of an issue in Europe. It's far less of an issue here. And I think that is something that they try to get us to identify Muslims as our principal enemies. And by they, I mean Zionists, because that is Israel's principal adversary in the Middle East. And I don't think they have the same ranking in America as they do in Israel or in Europe, not by a long shot.
Yeah, I would say yes. And that's because I was raised, I remember the school where I went in Greenfield Park, Quebec. I watched some kids cheer when the second tower was hit. Had a very, very large percentage of Islamic students, so much so that some of my homeroom class at lunch hour was turned into a prayer room. And that's always where you and I differ is Europe, obviously, it's a bigger threat. That's why I don't want us to emulate Europe, and Canada emulates it in a lot of ways as far as the parliamentary system and as far as the sort of multicultural mosaic, to use their term. If we emulate them outside of an actual Catholic theocracy, which I know you said you don't want.
You've heard me say a lot of things about Steven Crowder. Mostly I've said good things about Steven Crowder. I haven't really dissed him a lot, even though I haven't watched him as much as I used to. One thing you will never hear me say is that he's not a smart man. He is very smart. So I agree completely. Two smart guys. That's a great conversation. You know, the thing about the Tucker conversation was it was just the moment, but it was actually a mundane. I think that was a good conversation, don't get me wrong, but it was very mundane. And that's kind of Nick's goal on this, is to not be the caricature of what they want him to be. this is a better conversation fundamentally.
You can't fill the void with nothing, and it gets filled by the more brutal religion. And that is something they're called to. That's why we have 200 million Muslims on earth who believe that violence against non-Muslims and apostates is justified. So do I think it's an imminent threat now? No. But we could be Europe if we follow their lead on that culturally, would be my case. Maybe slight difference. Next chat.
All right, next chat from Defender XX. Question for Nick. How would you properly incentivize smart people of industry and technology into political leadership? Would you want them in elected positions or appointed?
I think they should serve in the bureaucracy. Because I don't really look at elected representatives as the people that are really in charge. It tends to be more the departments, the agencies, and maybe advisors. Maybe there should be some kind of new creation, but we live in a technological society. I think we need some level of technocracy. It's sad that we have these 90-year-old, you have Chuck Grassley in the Senate. What does he know about wafers? What does he know about chips? What does he know about any of this stuff? I think they should be advising Congress, and they should be in the federal bureaucracy.
I heard that answer, and I'm a child, so I heard you say wafers and chips, and I was thinking Nilla wafers and potato chips, because I'm sure he's very familiar with those. Hey, Nilla wafers, it's noon. All right, okay. Let's grab 2 more chats and then let Nick go on his way, because he probably wants to be with his people.
All right, next chat from Carful. Question for Stephen and Nick.
Okay.
With all the new additions to the Conservatives, what do you believe is key to prevent infighting and find our center?
Ooh. First off, I don't like saying finding our center because that sounds like eat, pray, love bullshit. But outside of that, your floor, Nick.
I guess the biggest thing is we have to prioritize what matters to us. And for me, when I look at it's like you said earlier, the number one threat to the country is the demographic change. And so to me, that if we're going to find the center, that's the center. And I'm willing to compromise on other issues if we're going to stop the flow of immigrants. And I don't care what the argument is. I don't care the why, but we got to prevent them from coming in. And then I would say on top of that, the priority is we got to put America first in foreign policy. So in trade and war, we really need to fight the corruption. And so I think as long as we rank those things, we can redefine what it is to be America first. Or not redefine that, maybe enshrine America first as the center of what it is to be right wing. And then you could say a guy like Mark Levin, he really doesn't land on the same side as us because he's not on board with that. Neither does Shapiro. So that I would prioritize, and maybe we can reconceive what it is to be on the right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and see where they line up, because I think on some of the close-handed issues...
I completely missed that last answer. That's an important answer. Let me bring it
Say
back.
A guy like Mark Levin, he really...
I want to know how he defines that. For me, it has to be your views on faith is probably the fundamental. Not that everyone's going to be Christian, but if you are anti that, then it can't work.
Or appointed?
I think they should serve in the bureaucracy, because I don't really look at elected representatives as the people that are really in charge. It tends to be more the departments, the agencies, and I think advising some new creation. We live in a technological society. I think we need some level of technocracy. It's sad that we have these 90-year-old Congress. Instead of about wafers, I think it should be advising Congress. It should be in the federal bureaucracy.
I'm a child, so I heard you say wafers and chips. I'm sure he's very familiar with those. No wafers, no. Let Nick go on his way, because he probably wants to be with his people.
Wait, who's the answer to the...
All right, okay. Answer, and I'm a child, so I heard you say wafers and chips, and I was thinking Nilla wafers and potato chips, because I'm sure he's very familiar with those. Hey, Nilla wafers, it's noon. All right, okay. Let's grab 2 more chats and then let Nick go on his way, because he probably wants to be with his people.
All right, next chat from Carful. Question for Stephen and Nick.
Okay.
With all the new additions to the Conservatives, what do you believe is key to prevent infighting and find our center?
Ooh. First off, I don't like saying finding our center because that sounds like eat, pray, love bullshit. But outside of that...
I mean, you can't... The new additions to conservatives. What does that mean? I don't even know what conservative means. So that question is, again, just what is the definition? You don't have any definition. What did MAGA mean? That was my problem when I started falling away from MAGA. I was like, okay, we need to define this thing. What does it mean? No one could really answer that for me. And then now you see where it is.
Your floor, Nick.
I guess the biggest thing is we have to prioritize what matters to us. And for me, when I look at it's like you said earlier, the number one threat to the country is the demographic change. And so to me, that if we're going to find the center, that's the center. And I'm willing to compromise on other issues.
Yeah, so I disagree with that. I understand it's a problem, but that's not the core issue. I'm not on your side just because you say that. That's not enough. So I will agree with Tucker. Tucker says that, but I'm not. The question was, how do you prevent infighting? Just because you agree with that doesn't mean there's not going to be infighting.
If we're going to stop the flow of immigrants, and I don't care what the argument is, I don't care the why, but we got to prevent them from coming in. And then I would say on top of that, the priority is we got to put America first in foreign policy. So in trade and war, we really need to fight the corruption. And so I think as long as we rank those things, we can redefine like what it is to be America first. Or not redefine that, maybe enshrine America first as the center of what it is to be right wing. And then you could say a guy like Mark Levin, he really doesn't land on the same side as us because he's not on board with that. Neither does Shapiro.
Yeah, because it's a religious thing. It's a faith thing. That's why. We don't share the same faith. So fundamentally, we're not going to agree on anything beyond that. Well, I mean, there's going to be some things, but as you add more topics to the table, we'll agree on less and less and less. As you get deeper into the conversation of immigration, I will agree with Ben Shapiro less and less and less and less. So that I think we have to get more fundamental than that.
So that I would prioritize, and maybe we can reconceive what it is to be on the right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and see where they line up, because I think on some of the close-handed issues, they do. What I don't want to see happen is the only litmus test be if someone morally opposes Israel. I think that...
No, it's not the only, but what's more fundamental than that is the faith in general, your faith. See, that's the problem I have with Crowder. That's why he's better than most. He's better than, obviously, than Tim Pool and others, not just comparing them. Tim Pool and Jeremy are from the Quartering, but I don't understand that. No, it's not the only, but it's a pretty big issue. So it's almost like you're trying to shove it aside like it shouldn't be a big issue. That's what it comes across as to me.
It needs to include this coalition, people who think we should cut all funding and we should only look out for our own interests and remove ourselves from foreign entanglements. But those people can also say, I hate Hamas, and I think that Islam as a prescription is a greater threat to the West. We may disagree, as long as I think the important close-handed issues, I would say, for me, immigration, absolutely, both morally and pragmatically. People say demographic change, and they go great replacement there. I'm talking about like this country will cease to be. That is the thing. And you combine the mass illegal immigration, the mass H-1Bs with the census rule change. That is huge that people have overlooked. I mean, I will say for all the flaws of this administration, I don't know anywhere else where you get a Tom Homan. Big fan, had him on the show. That's a guy who really is uncompromising, and he talks about the moral imperative to deport everybody. He made it on this show. He said that once they've seen what I've seen, they would. So immigration, I would say First Amendment. I would say Second Amendment. I would say the idea of the destruction of the family. We have to end anyone who pursues that, can't be a part of it, and then see what kind of a coalition we can build on that. But I don't go along with people who go, we can compromise on all these other fundamentals, provided it's just immigration or Israel, because you can find some people who are to the left of everything on those. They can't be in the coalition if they're not on board with a strong immigration plan. But I think we can determine the close-handed issues versus open-handed issues, like you're talking about, intervention, for example, tariffs. I think people could be pro or against tariffs. I am pro these tariffs, but I wouldn't exclude them. Okay, final chat.
All right, final chat from Elenoism. Question for Nick. You say that bombing the Middle East for Israel is not America first, but you also say you're against bombing Venezuela for killing Americans with fentanyl. Care to elaborate?
Yeah, well, as far as Venezuela is concerned, I'm much more in favor of intervention there than in the Middle East. And I've gotten a little flack for that because I do believe that the Western Hemisphere is our domain. It's our sphere of influence. That's the Monroe Doctrine for 200 years. As far as the boats are concerned, though, have I said I'm against that? I guess what I don't like.
My impression was that, just to be clear, my impression of you, tell me if I'm wrong, was that you said, like limited parameters. We have to define objectives clearly, but you supported that more than other interventions. You could be persuaded. That was my impression of your view. Am I wrong?
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
100%. I mean, the only thing with the drug boats is it's a lie that Venezuela is responsible for a lot of the drug trafficking. That's just a pretext. And I don't even mind that. Like you said, I could be persuaded to support an operation as long as it's clearly defined, effective. If it works, I like it. Like if they're able to get Maduro out and we get a good guy in, if they could do that and they know they're in the NSE, then sure. But I'm very hesitant because regime change doesn't have a good track record. But we do have legitimate interests here. So I'm not opposed to intervention on principle.
Yeah, I would say
Just for the record, this is where I separate from Nick as well. I'm not against intervention at all, but I am against violent intervention. I am against China doesn't need to do that. Why do we need a violent overthrowing? Who is this really for? Objectives aren't clear. No. So I don't support anything that funnels more money. We can't track this money. We don't know what's going on. The military just does these attacks all over the place. We didn't get congressional approval. What is the purpose of this? They're not a threat to us. So you need to sell me on it. He hasn't sold me on it. And there's no way you could sell me on it using military. If you want to use diplomatic forces to do something, that's a complete different thing. And even then you would have to sell it to me as to why. I am fine with basically working out a deal. I thought Trump made deals. Why can't you make a deal that's better than what Venezuela is getting with the Russians? What's wrong with that? That's how China does their imperialism that way. So the money isn't all funneled. Of course, they have great defense and all that, but some of that is funneled back into the infrastructure and for the country. So I don't agree with the military. Why? The military should be defense. That's why I was against the naming it Department of War. No, why? It should be for defense. Only if we need it. Why are we meddling up in Venezuela? We don't have a compelling argument otherwise? So I digress a little bit from Nick there. I guess a lot of bit. I'm against violence. Even if you want to go around patrolling and protecting our trade routes, defending the trade routes to a certain extent, absolutely can understand that. But I don't understand this push, this proactive push against Venezuela.
I'm not opposed to intervention. I think the principle is it in America's interests and how necessary is it? Where we would differ is, I definitely think that Iran is the case. I understand they also with Israel.
See, there you go again. Steven Crowder supporting the military-industrial complex, spending billions of dollars to accomplish what exactly? Something I can't independently confirm. And I don't view Iran as any more of a threat than Israel is to us. So I'm out. Just take the proactive military use off the table. We'll never support it.
I know that your view of Iran is different. You think that there's sort of a safeguard against Israel and nuclear Iran. I think that there's a reason that no nation around them, including people who would be more in line with them, want them to have nukes ever. But I think that the principles, now we may disagree on the target or the place. I think first off, the principle is to be very, very hesitant to do it. And it goes through the filter. Is this serving America's interests? Because libertarians who act like there's no intervention that ever serves America's interests, well, that's silly.
Yeah, so I'm not a libertarian. I'm not even a non-interventionist. I'm with
the lie. So Mike Hasbani says Venezuela is a lie. Absolutely. I should do a deeper. I've touched on that actually over the couple of years. There's some leftists that do good work on that. But I actually agree with Nick that I don't care that it's a lie as much as I don't understand the benefit for me. What is, if Trump is going to lie, what is the benefit for me and you? That's what it comes down to. If there was benefit for me and you, I actually wouldn't mind. I wouldn't probably care about the lie as much. But I know they're connected, but I'm still separating them out of principle.
It's just got to be America first, and then we could do whatever we want.
Yeah, well, yes, pretty much. And Venezuela, yeah, you're right. I don't think a lot of people are being killed from fentanyl from Venezuela, but I will say, like, I also, again, culturally take an interest in, like, remember Code Pink? Remember them? Code Pink?
The name rings a bell. Who
exactly.
are they again?
They were the yappy.
It doesn't matter if people are being killed by fentanyl from Venezuela. I don't care to argue that. I can't independently verify that or not. And what does that have to do with anything? So we're going to be running around the world bombing people? What about China? China's participated in a lot of stuff in other countries. That doesn't make any sense. So that's not good enough. What's in it for me? That needs to be clear.
Bitches who would show up at anything war. George Bush, it was code pink everywhere. No war for oil. Disappeared with Barack Obama on the drone strikes. Then kind of reappeared. You're just like, well, hold on a second. Where did they go for all this time? But I also look at these Venezuelan drug boat busters. And by the way, they're also largely China funded, code pink. So that always takes place. I would argue that China is probably a primary threat. Or not argue. I think we're probably on the same page. But these are one of those stories where culturally, when you tune in, and that's why I always have CNN on live every day, and I go, see nothing up my sleeve, so people know we're live, because you and I both know a lot of people say they're live. They're not live in this industry. Right. They go, and these people who were killed in this war crime. I go, well, hold on a second, war crime. Drug runners in the middle of the ocean on cigar boats with 4 outboard motors, no fishing equipment to be seen. There could not possibly be collateral damage. And then I go, oh, okay, it's not about a war crime, because you would say, look at the women and children. Now you're saying, look at the drug runners on drug boats. And that to me highlights that, again, the left hates the United States of America, or they wouldn't be making a big deal out of drug runners in Venezuelan cigar boats.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, that they're defending the worst of the worst this year. It's like, don't deport criminals, don't blow up criminals, don't arrest people that are stabbing people in the neck. So I'm with you on that. And as far as Venezuela is concerned, even Iran, like, I think a case could be made about Iran. That's a whole other topic.
I know we're wrapping it up, but yes.
Yeah, but I don't know that I 100% even agree with Dave Smith on this. Like, I get where you're coming from. I'm not in favor of proliferation. I just have maybe a different prescription for how to solve it. But sure. I think we're fairly aligned on foreign policy.
Yeah, I think pretty close, or at least in principle. And then that's where coalition matters. Because, okay, are we on these? Okay, now let's look at these specifics. And you're going to have disagreements on specifics, but I don't think anyone can be letting the doors disagreements on these foundational. And I don't want to say principles because it sounds like old school conservative, but I mean non-negotiables is what I mean. Like someone going, oh, we disagree on the we agree on the specifics, but I want to take away all your guns and ban everyone for hate speech. Like a Pam Bondi. I don't think she should be in this. Well, all right, Nick. I appreciate you taking the time. Want to say hopefully fair, productive. I think was pretty friendly. We disagreed, but I'm happy about it.
Yeah, totally. Great conversation. Great getting to meet you. Absolutely fair. And I believe in conversations like these. And I thank you I know you're going to get flack for it. I thank you for giving me the platform and the opportunity. So it was good to finally speak with you. Oh, absolutely. And hopefully, that's why I say I give you the floor, because I don't want anything to happen like what happened after with Tucker. I won't do it. And I don't want any drive-bys after. That's how this works, because people try and stir the controversy machine. I think this had a beginning, middle, and end. And Tucker was really shitty with what he did. Like, here's the thing, whether I agree with him on some issues or you on some, it's just so bitchy to do that. Once you're gone, you have my word, I won't be doing that. Yeah, and likewise, I'll be singing your praises. I'm number one. I'm a Mug Club guy now. Okay, well, don't go that far, because we're. I endorse you completely. Yeah, no. It's just like when you think Steven Crowder, think Nick Fuentes. Get the fuck out of here! All right. Well, if I don't see you, Merry Christmas, Nick. Thank you for taking the time. Be well. Thanks, man. Merry Christmas, Nick Fuentes, everybody.
Absolute shout out to Steven Crowder. Why can't we have conversations like this in our country? Like, just absolutely. I missed about 30 minutes of it, but everything else I heard was just excellent. And I completely admit I was wrong. I didn't know, I hadn't watched Crowder in a while, so my opinion of him had gone below where he really was, obviously. Much respect for that. That's my biggest takeaway is Steven Crowder, much respect. And really, Dinesh D'Souza started this whole thing. He was the first one from Con Inc. to, and I don't know if Steven Crowder's really in Con Inc. or not, but he was the first one from Con Inc. to have Nick on. And Nick has just been nothing but cordial, respectful. And he's always been, even in his vitriolic debates, he always starts out cordial. And if he needs to throw haymakers, he will. Excellent discussion. I just wanted to finish it off, and I'm out. Let's see here. Creed said, I only saw the last part. Did he not cut Nick off? No, not at all. Zero. None of that. Bi versus gay. I can't. It would have no desire to independently confirm that. Irrelevant from the conversation. I didn't think Nick would flip-flop on foreign policy. He has not flip-flopped. He's always been imperialist. He has not flip-flopped on that. It's not a big part of his show. And he's imperialist he's America first. So he doesn't care if we have to take guns and bombs and threaten people and regime change and all that kind of stuff. He's not for killing innocent citizens or anything like that. But if you're looking at war kind of stuff, war like military versus military, he's never been against that. Mike Has Bad Knees says, I don't watch a lot of Nick, but when I do, I see him in these types of interviews. I get the impression that he wants to be liked. It's you couldn't say that. I wouldn't phrase it exactly like that, but maybe I'm splitting hairs, Mike. I absolutely understand why you would say that. I would put it more from the standpoint of Nick doesn't want to be portrayed as a monster. He wants to be portrayed as a Catholic, as a Christian who has legitimate points of views. So it's pretty much the same thing. But yeah, that is his strategy. I know that for sure. I know that for a fact. And that's how he is. He's not acting to do that. That's just how he is. And he's matured. A lot of the clips you're seeing are, I can comment on any Nick clip that has gone viral. Those are clips from, 6 years, 7 years, 5 years ago. He's matured. The set's matured. He's matured. The movement has matured. The Groypers have matured. They're all getting older. Mike says it's a positive sign that the war in Ukraine is coming to an end, but the military-industrial complex needs to keep being fed. Absolutely. No, I'm not out on the military. Period. As far as proactive stuff, nah. Even the defense stuff, they use false flags for it. So even there, you have to be careful. But that's the only time I have a discussion on it. They say Nick has a Grindr account. How would you know that? Creed says he said he wouldn't agree with Dave Smith on Iran. Or did I? No. He's a lot of people don't know. Nick is imperialist. I've seen people on the left who just started watching him. Nick is not against using the military. Never has been. But I think his take is kind of like mine, even though I'm totally out on military use proactively. It's what's in it for America. So when you look at the Middle East, bombing women and children in the Middle East, in Gaza, what is in that? I mean, from a Christian standpoint, it's wrong. So he's against that anywhere, everywhere. Guys, he's a Christian. That's not a joke. That's a true thing. Nonviolent, all that. But when you talk about war, I mean, life is war, fighting and stuff like that. That is part of it. But what is the benefit of Gaza? That's a whole separate thing. He's not for what's happening in Gaza. I did agree with the name change to Department of War because at least it's honest. Bar, yeah, absolutely true. That's like a bar I'd put in the song. Literally. Literally, I'm doing bars now. I did a coded video. A lyrics only video. I'm actually doing a video for it too on Randy Fine, and AI got really crazy with the coding. I was like, oh, I kind of like it. So I did a coded video. I might unveil the code. Islam is not a religion, it's a cult of hate. I think it's, I don't agree with that. I have made strong statements against Islam and Muslims just because it's not compatible with my faith. Nothing against them as people, but America can't become friendly to Islam and Muslim or whatever Jews believe. I don't even know how to define that. But people can make whatever religion. You should be free to practice it, but it should not be prevalent in power. People can make Christianity a cult of hate. It's not the faith as much as it is people and how they practice it. But I appreciate it. I'm out. I'll find a song to break us out of here. Am I connected still? Or I think did I disconnect? Where are my bars? I am connected. Oh, did I turn it down? Okay. Now I'm out. Thank you all. Peace.